Well, hello, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome to our summit here today. I'm so glad to be able to present today systems and processes for time-strapped CEOs to be able to gain back some time and have some visibility strategies to really help them to maximize their time when it comes time to leadership and visibility. So our first guest today is Leon Flood. Leon is with us live. He's got some really cool things happening in his background there. Leon helps us better on screen and be able to get more time. So, Leon, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
First, thank you all for having me. That's number one. And just a small little thing, it's lion like the animal, like rawr. Yes. And so I sincerely appreciate that. I'm gonna go ahead and start my Clizzy clock, as I love to say it. One of the major things I'm gonna give you a little quick background about myself is I enjoy fun. If it's not fun, to me, it's not worth doing. And I believe that when you're having fun, number one, it comes across the screen, most importantly, in this virtual
Mm.
space. So anyone who's looking and wondering why or how can I elevate my virtual space to get more visibility, I want to say be natural, have fun, enjoy yourself, right? People see that, they can read right through it. So I tell everyone to make sure you smile and have fun. A little quick background about myself. I'm an alum of Full Sail University, which is in Orlando, Florida, arts and graduate degree. Went out to Hollywood and worked inside the movie field. I'm one of those people that you see the movies and the special graphics and all that stuff that come on screen. But we don't get our faces in front of everyone else like that, right? One of my associates, one of my business partners, some of you guys should know, is Spidey. You should see Spidey. That's one of my guys. Say hi, Spidey. Say hi to
Hi,
everyone.
Spidey. Hi, Spidey.
Yeah. And I'm a person who simply makes you look, sound, and perform better in a virtual space. I.e., some of the things that you're going to see today are some of the advanced stuff that I show. And today I'm just going to show you some simple stuff that's going to help you elevate and separate yourself from competitors, anyone else who may be doing something similar to what you're doing. One of them you see right now, right, with my name here, my company's name, and then my academy. That's created simply inside of ChatGPT, right? But one of the differences that you will notice is as I move, I don't have that blur effect sometimes when you see someone else who's using a virtual background. My preference, though, I tell people use your regular background if you're able to. But if you need to use a virtual background, it needs to look professional. It needs to make you seem like you're professional. You need to be able to hold up a product, for an example. Here's one of our mugs, and people are able to see it, right? It doesn't blur and it doesn't distort as you're holding it up if you're going to be doing something like that, right? I know a lot of authors who want to hold up their books and then all of a sudden it starts disappearing, right? This is a client of mine who I worked with, but here's one of the small differences, and I'm gonna come back to that. So, this is what we see normally, right? We see someone hold up a book like this, and it's great that they get to hold it up, they get to show it, they got to move it around. But what if you could advance that as well? And once again, we're not going there, but I'm going to show you an example of how that looks. Now, she would be able to give her presentation with her book on the side of her constantly as she's speaking about it. So it burns a little bit more memory into her attendees, right? They get to see her book constantly and she gets to still show it. So that's another small example of some of the things when we're talking about visibility. Why? Because we know people's attention spans are very short now, right? They say that the average attention span is shorter than a goldfish, if I'm not mistaken. People say that our attention spans are very short. So we always have to get them with all these little stuff. So today, I am going to show you something that you can do directly inside of Zoom using Zoom's native apps. There's no cost to this. This is one of their free apps that you get to do. Of course, there's some things inside. If you want to purchase, you can, but It's absolutely free. And I am not an affiliate for this app, so I have nothing into it. I just love showing people so they can see how that looks. Um, if you have some questions, please interrupt me. I love it. I want to answer your questions. Stop me. I ask that you do it in one small little way. I want you to put a Q with a colon and then your question inside of the chat. What that does, it allows my system to separate questions and comments. So I don't have to scroll and find a question. I get questions on the left, I get comments on the right, right? So put a Q, a colon, and then your question if you have one. So let's get ready to get started, and I'm going to show you. You can follow along with me. I absolutely love that people follow along with me because then I can see what on their screen when it starts happening. So please follow along with me if you have it. Show us how you did this. So I am going to show you how I do that. I appreciate that. First, let me tell you this really quick. Myself, wrong one. Went to a different one there. So I am, let me go back to this one here. There we go. There we go. Me, I'm a virtual branding expert. What that simply means is I make you sound, look, and perform better on camera. And I'm going to show you a few ways of those right there. I created this system that I like to call instead of a webinar, because that's what most people do, right? They host a webinar. And I'm like, that's cool. I like that. But I created a vibinar, right? When you come in, I want you to enjoy yourself. I want you to have fun. I want your attendees and everyone to look at you. When you go into a meeting, I want people to look at you like, whoa, that virtual space looks professional, right? It looks engaging. So I'm going to show you a few of those, right? So inside of Zoom, we're going to go to an app and it's going to be called SPX. Don't worry if you don't know how to get there. I'm about to show you exactly how to do that. The very first thing I want you to do is take a look at the bottom of your Zoom. You should see a little thing that's called apps. You see it inside the yellow there. If you don't see it, check your more section. Okay, you'll be able to see that. So let's see. We have, and matter of fact, thank you for doing that because I'm going to show you a really cool thing also with this right here. We have a question coming in from Carol, and I'm going to show you something really cool here. So Carol says, "How intimidated are people when it comes to showing up authentically for themselves?" Very. I find people who will get petrified. It's like they freeze and they can't even think of the next word that comes out. So I see it often. People do get intimidated like that often. So once you get that apps section up on your screen, oh, look at that. She has it already. Look at that. SPX. I love it. So once you get it, what I'm going to show you is you're going to look for a app called SPX Graphics for Zoom, right? So all you have to do is type in there. If you don't see how to do it, at the top of that screen, you see something that says My Apps and then also Add Apps. Click on Add Apps, just like if you're searching inside your phone, and then just type in SPX Graphics for Zoom. Animated lower thirds, overlay graphics, etc. They most probably 90% of everything inside there is free or low cost, but I'll show you some of that as well. What I'm going to show you immediately is how to do this, how to add your name, your company's name, and whatever else you want to place on side inside there. Right, so it'll show up on your Zoom screen. Zoom gives you a little tiny little name that you get to put there. I want your name to be big, to be bold, because when you walk into a corporate office, what do you see on their desk, right? You see their nameplate. You see the name that says what their title is, right? To let you know what their title is. So here's how we're going to get to that. Once you open up SPX, and please, if I go too fast, slow me down. I love it. In the first box you're going to see is this gray box. All you have to do is put your name, whatever title you have in there, and your company, and then hit save. It will automatically come up on screen. Now you can toggle it on and off, of course, right? Maybe some meetings you don't want it on, at some portions of your meetings you don't want it on. But I want people to be able to see your name, your company's name. And then there's something else really cool I'm going to show you as well as we're doing that. So I'm gonna just take a little quick second and let everyone else grab it and see if they can get it. All right, we got Dr. Charlotte. She's got it. Look at that. That's such a big win. Ooh, look at the confetti. If you can't have fun with confetti, I don't know what's going on, right? So now,
I, I have a
once you,
question, Lion. I have a
sure, go
question.
for it.
So
Go for it.
I'm looking at Karis and I'm looking at Dr. Charlotte. I'm not seeing I see your name change, but I'm not seeing their name
Mhm.
change.
They probably haven't put it up yet,
Oh,
if
okay.
that's the case. Because as soon as you do it, it will come up automatically. Or rather, you might have to toggle on a little green switch that's right underneath it, um, just in case. I don't directly use SPX because I've used the advanced stuff now, but this is more of just a getting you started. So I don't recall if the switch is automatically toggled off. But if either one of you have the ability to go ahead and put your name up. I would love it so we can all take a screenshot as well and brag about that. But once you do it, your name should automatically come up. All right. And when you get that, you will get something that looks like this right here. Like Emily, right? Look at that smile on Emily's face, right? She finally figured it out. There goes Dr. Charlotte. Look at that. She's got it. Yes. You do have the ability to change colors, fonts, and all of that as well. That might be a different feature inside there, but that's the basics, right? So now, when I get to look at Dr. Charlotte's screen, I get to see what she does, right? It shows up when she comes into that meeting, and then I get to look at that and I'll see all of the stuff that she does. Okay. So does anyone else have theirs right now, maybe having a little issue? Welcome in, Leah, joining us. We appreciate that. We're going to give you a big round of applause. Woo! Leah's in the house. All right. So, but we can see now that Emily is a transformation coach and a founder. Of True Voice is on the side, so you can't see that. But I'll take a second here just to see if anyone else has theirs coming up. Leah, if you don't have it yet, what we did is we just went into Zoom apps and we downloaded something called SPX Graphics for Zoom. So you can be able to put that on side there. All right. So now the next thing I'm going to show you is also another screenshot of Latoya. She has hers and she put the dollar signs for her S's, right? But you can see hers is like a teal. We know she's a business strategist, business coach, artist acquisitions, Inc. Right? So that's some of the things that gives you the ability to do. All right, she just changed her color. I see that. Dr. Charlotte changed her color. The next thing I'm going to show you inside of SPX, everything's inside there, is how to use what's called a headline. Headlines I love using to make an announcement, right? And I'm going to show you an example here in just a second. But maybe you have uh, a project that's opening up in the next quarter. Maybe you're going to be inviting someone. Okay, all right, she has hers too. And Tio, I love it. You're going to be inviting someone to join in your cohort at a next quarter or whatever time frame. I use the headlines every 10 minutes. I'll bring it up, maybe I'll mention it, right? So all you have to do in your headlines, and I just put this is where you would put it at. It's going to look like this once it comes up on your screen. Again, that's the bottom of my Zoom, and I'll show you an actual example of that. This is where you can put your headline and it will show up on your screen like that. Okay, so we're going to take a look at Nikki's headline here for 1 second. So Nikki's headline, we see that she a speaker coach, right? She works for Joy Inspired LLC, and she put her headline: her Jump membership is now going to start enrolling in the fourth quarter, right? So again, use it at your discretion. Use it when you want to. But now I'm hosting a meeting. I'm maybe hosting a coaching session, and I say at midnight tomorrow, the application is going to open up, everyone can join, right? Or something. That headline will now come up on screen. And again, it makes you look a little bit more professional. And what it also does is it gives your employees, your attendees, anything in the meeting, the opportunity to take a screenshot or write it down, right? You can control the speed of which they see it. So you can leave it on screen. You're not just saying, hey, this is going to open up on August the 19th at 8 p.m., right? Okay, look at Karen. She's I love when people just start going ahead. Hold on, let me give you some applause too, because I see that, right? Yes, you're figuring it out. And again, I told you this is for the most part, everything is very self-explanatory and simple, but I still love walking it through a pace that some people will be able to get as well. Now, I am going to show you something that is probably going to be so dramatic that you're going to look at this and be like, no way, that's not possible. So we see Nikki's headline, right? And we see all of that, and we see her background behind me. I want to show you a before Nikki's work with us, and then an after. So what you're about to see right now is the before picture of her up in that corner, right? Look at one, her name was small, her background was just, just a background, right? And I said, no problem. Let's get this fixed for you. She started to work with us, and then you guys can see the before and then the after. And let me give you a really great hint as well, something for visibility that I want to show you. That background that you see with Nikki, it is not real. It is not a virtual background either. It is a backdrop that I tell my clients to use. 20 bucks, 25 bucks off of Amazon. It's a photographer's backdrop, right? If someone's
Mhm.
scared to sort of background or whatever, I tell them get up against a white wall, take two thumbtacks and put it up on side of the wall. And I will even give you another example of that. Let me
I have a
find.
girlfriend that had a brick one. When you watched her on her podcast, you would never know it wasn't a brick wall. And I walked into the studio and I went, that's a curtain?
Yes, yes, and it builds confidence, right? Because now you're not worried about where your backdrop looks and so forth like that. So all of those things matter. And I tell all my clients if you don't, you're not satisfied with what's going on behind you, oh, the kitchen, whatever, take some curtains and put it right on there. Right, it makes
Mhm.
it so much simple and so much easier and more professional for the people who are going to be watching your show or talking with you. Even if you go into a presentation to present or pitch a product or service to another company, you feel stronger within that. So I also want to show you another kind of before and then after as well of a client. This is Janie. You can see just her background, everything behind her, right? Nothing that's going to be too embarrassing or anything like that. But we wanted to step it up a little bit. And then this is, oh, let me turn off Nikki's one. And that was the before for Jamie. And then now we see the after, right? And here she
Wow.
is inside of a Zoom room, right? Where it has that kind of backdrop that makes it look blurred a little bit. You would never tell that this is not a real or a virtual or a non-real background, right? But
Mhm.
it gives the difference of even you could kind of see in the way she's sitting and just talking, right? So those little things help increase your visibility. It helps increase it because people want to feel like you could take them to where they want to go, right? And it's hard sometimes if you're in a space that's not conducive to that. Right? So I call it almost like the unicorn pattern of the virtual events, right? It's the mythological. Oh, is that a unicorn behind me? Would you look at
And
that?
you have the sounds too.
Yes. So it all I love having fun. I don't know if you guys know this, but if it's not fun, again, to me, I don't want to do it. So let's talk logos. And now this is a paid portion of SPX where you can place your logo onto the screen. And again, uh, and I'll get to that in a second. But if you use SPX, I think it's a $9 a month for the entire thing, paid and everything else. But they do have a la carte. Some people can pay 99 cents or $2 a month if you want your logo. But you're able to do a logo. One of the things you saw a second ago as well was the Be Right Back screen that we saw was put up. So, what if you're running an event and you want to step off screen for a second, or you want someone to work on your workbooks and you want to give them some time to work on it? Well, this is kind of one of the things that you can use for it. Or if you just need to step away. And I'll show you an example of what that looks like right here. So, now when that comes up, and you won't be in front like I am. Again, I'm just doing that for the training. But be right back. 3 minutes to work on your workbook. right? So now people at least know what the directive of what's happening and what's
Mhm.
going on. And as you stated a second ago, you can even add in some music. Let me do a little something here for a second. Right? So you can add in some music to just give a little bit more like fun and within your event and so forth. But that's just one way of using that. Again, you can use it for whatever you want. Hey, be right back. Got to take care of something. But it gives you the ability again to look professional. And when you put this on in Zoom, you'll be off screen, of course. They won't be able to see what's happening. Again, inside of SPX. Now I want to
With
show you
that,
one. Go
with
for it.
that be right back, do you set the timer and the timer can count down?
It does.
Amazing.
Yes. You can set the timer for however long you want. Well, I think they have a specific amount, like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. Again, I haven't used it in a long time. But yes, you can set the time to say you have 3 minutes to work on your workbook. Hey, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Uh, Breakout rooms are coming up in 6 minutes, so people understand and know. Hey, go grab you a drink. Be back in whatever time frame. So yes, and I'm also going to show you how to set a timer inside of Zoom here shortly, which is great for speakers, which is great if you have someone that's giving an intro for themselves, right? So they know, hey, you got 2 minutes to go over your timer, and I'll show you a little bit about that in a second. Another great thing about that is you have these functions inside there where you can tell someone you are muted, right? It has emojis that pops up. And you can see Darren's face when I placed that onto the screen, right? It brought a little smile to his face. He's smiling and smirking a little bit. So instead of telling your attendees or telling your guests, hey, you're on mute, right? You can have something pop up on the screen that can alert them that you're on mute. Again, I love doing mine a little different. This is my you're on mute. Whenever someone's on mute, I would do something like this. And I was like, hey, you're on mute. You're on mute, right? So you can use that to whichever way you like. But they do have different emojis. These are some of the advanced ones that I'm showing you. Like when I get my nerd on, I love using some stuff like that. Maybe someone gives a insight that was humorous, right? I could bring on some of these things like that. And again, this is all about having a different look when you're presenting, right? When people are having fun in your event, in your meetings, or whatever, they are more apt to go tell other people, to want to come
Right.
back, to say, "Ooh, I learned something new." So there's another one that you can use inside of SPX. Okay, so let's get back to the next one. The SPX cost, again, you could do some of these at a la carte, 95 cents, $2.50. I'll show you guys some of the image carousels, animated emojis. But if you do the whole thing, I think it's $9. Again, I have no affiliation with the Zoom part of this, just love showing it. The agenda, I love that
Hey
because if
Lion,
I'm
it's
doing them,
it's $11 a month right now, just so you have
it's
it. You want to be
11.
right, you want to be up
Oh,
to date. You want to be up to date on your presentation.
oh my god! See, like that's how shows you how long it's been since I've actually used them. All right, thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that. 11 now. Okay, so it's $11 a month if someone chooses to use that, or I just truly say, hey, you can use the free stuff, and if you see one or two things in there that you want, maybe get it. Um, the
But when
agenda.
it comes down to visibility, these tools are amazing. And here's the thing that they're all at your fingertips.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're right inside of a platform that you're more than likely going to use most of the time. Most people use
Mhm.
Zoom for the most part. So it's not even like a third party app that you have to go out of, right? If you're hosting a meeting, it's already inside your Zoom. You just open it up and it's right there. Now, agendas, it is exactly what it says. It's I love to let my attendees, my viewers know what's going on in the meeting. So that way they know, hey, if I need to step out and come back at 25 after, I know the part that I'm going to be coming in on. And SPX allows you to do stuff like that as well. Again, I'm going to show you an example of it, but keep in mind what I'm showing you is a little bit more advanced, but I love doing stuff like this. So before our meeting starts, I will always say, hey, so here goes the agenda of what we're going to be going over today. Ba-dum, 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 bam, right? And so now I'm here and say, so today we're going to start off with music. That's the little yellow part. Next, we're going to go for gamification. The third one today, I'm going to teach you how to include everyone into our sessions, right? So those are like the agendas. It gives, again, that professional feeling and look. But please keep in mind, this is not something that absolutely has to be done. This is just something that I love to share with people so they understand and say, hey, this is something I can kind of go towards. Okay. So let's get back to that portion. Agendas, again, you can use for anything. Animated emojis, meeting callouts. You saw that's free. That's the one where you could do you're on mute. You can, I think, you can customize some of them. Just double check. Image carousel is a great tool to use inside of Zoom, well, with SPX, because if you need to show a few items, maybe you want to show slides, maybe you want to show books or something like that, you have the ability to look different. And I'll show you, matter of fact, let me show you just a totally different view on that. Because most of you, when you see a Zoom, oops, wrong one here, Zoom different. Oh, that was the client. Okay, let me go up here. All right, so when you see Zoom, most of the time, you see a slide, right? And someone brings a slide on.
Mhm.
I usually say in a meeting, the death of a presentation is the minute someone says, one moment, let me share my slides. It means that you're simply going to read, and studies have shown that most people mentally check out because they know that's all that's about to happen. And I jokingly say a lot of times, I said, this could have just been an email. You could have just sent this with the PDF files. We see a Zoom slide that looks similar to this, right? You're stuck up inside the corner and words are written on the screen and then you're reading them. Well, imagine if you could take that same sentence and say, well, if we ask you to think about the next 5 years or to write it, draw it down, how would it make you feel? Well, imagine if you could do that now in a similar way like this, right? And now you can talk about the personal journey because that slide just became an abstract drawing. Hey, what's your target for the next 5 years? Let's talk about your personal journeys, right? These are like little bullet points, but it still keeps you frame of mind, right? And it keeps your slide, if you will, or your information on screen like this. Again, presentation makes people look a little bit different. How about now making it kind of see through, transparent, right? You can use it against a black background or whatever to make it a little bit different. Similarly, if you were to do something like this and say, when do you think about saving? What do you picture? Yeah, we could use a mattress and a piggy bank and a shoebox, but what if we were able to now do something like this? Where now we could take that same type of
Mhm.
thing and put it on screen and say, let's talk about the pros and cons of traditional savings or having what you want to do. And I'm using a simple tool that you can use on your Zoom as well to be able to bring something like this on screen. Or if I wanted
Is
to again, sorry,
is
go
this
ahead.
the same tool that you use to bring the book up?
No, that one's a little bit different. That's a little bit advanced one, but it's similar inside of that technique where I'm just pressing a button to bring it up. It's not complicated, is what I love to tell people. As one of my favorite quotes that comes on the screen here that says, if it works, simply do more of it, right? Don't
Right.
overcomplicate it, right? But now I took that same Zoom um, slide or same slide rather, and I made it kind of like a just a different feel, right? A
Mhm.
different type of look and so forth like that. So those are some of the ways that you're able to do it. Let's check the time. Oh, still got a little bit more time. I love it. So um let me see if I could do this. I changed up a couple of things. Let's see if I could do this. That is let's see. Come on, do it right. Nope, wrong one, wrong one. Let's see if I can do it again. Let's see. All right, so here's Katie. Katie and I worked on an event a while ago, and she did a pop up event which I was hosting. And in that event, 120 leads, generated over $1,000, and took a little bit less than 4 weeks from start to finish. And why is that? Because when we worked together, it was a vibe in our feel, right? It made it different, so people were engaged when they first came in. We did karaoke, we did gamification, scavenger hunts. And then one of my favorites that I love doing, and then I'll get right back into this, is I love doing virtual bingo. Whereas we show an album cover, and then someone has a few seconds to guess. I'll do a trivia time thing like this right here. And then they have to guess the band, and then if they don't get it, we'll bring up some music or something like that. But again, it's keeping people involved and having fun. What you're seeing there are some different tools, advanced, but again, I just still love showing it just in case someone down the line says, "Hey, I want to learn a little bit more about that type of stuff." All right. So back to the training 10-20-30 rule. Robert Kiyosaki stated this, and I subscribe to it wholeheartedly. If you're doing a presentation, if you're doing a meeting, if you're doing something, use 10 slides or less. People are burnt out over slides. And I know some people say, well, my slides need to get 45. Maybe figure a different way, do two ones. It's a suggestion. Every rule is meant to be broken or adjusted, but here's just some suggestions. Keep it to around about 20 minutes unless you are engaging, right? People are engaged inside of that presentation. And then use 30-point fonts. You do not want someone having to squint to read your stuff, right? 10-20-30 rule. And then about the last 5 minutes, I'm going to show you something really, really interesting that you can do. And I'm also going to give away a link to it, whereas it's a free tool that you can use as well. So as I stated a little bit earlier, I love the Vibinar feel, right? Because the Vibinar is about a different type of kind of vibe, if you will, any other way. When you normally come into a meeting, it's usually just kind of like a hey, we're just here for business. Where people still in a virtual space, it's a little bit harder to connect, right? A little bit harder to connect. So one of the tools that I show people to use for connection, and this is a tip that I think is going to work really great for you. Where did my paper go? I just had it here. So I'll show it to you, and then I'll bring it up here in just a second as well. So when you're looking, matter of fact, let me show you first before I bring it up. When you're doing a presentation, visibility, you want people to trust you. You're about to ask them to join your group, you want to ask for money, whatever it is. Here's what 98% of the people do when they're in a meeting. So right now, I'm looking and I see Dr. Charlotte's face. And I'm talking to Dr. Charlotte. I'm talking to Karis. Again, I want to make sure I get it right. Okay, Karis. I'm talking to Karis. I'm talking to Carol, and I'm telling you all about what I'm doing. But where does it look like I'm looking at when I'm talking to you? I'm looking down. My brain sees your face on my computer monitor. So I'm thinking, yes, I'm talking to you. But to you, it looks like, why isn't he paying me attention? He wants me to join something. He cares about me or she cares about me. Why? So, what we need to do is bring our eyes up to that small web camera or that DSLR camera and train our brain to not look down. But there's a tool that helps you with that. Because now, as I'm talking to you, it means that I'm into you. I'm listening to you, right? So if that's something that's difficult to you, here's a tool that I was going to suggest. I am an affiliate of this tool, right? So if you want to look in something like this, let me know. It's called Eye Contact Camera. And what happens is that camera flips down into front of your monitor like that. So now, as you're looking at the person's face, you're looking directly into the webcam, right? So then they feel like, oh, you don't, your brain, you don't have to think, you don't have to look someplace else. You've been eyeing one of those, no pun intended. Well, use my affiliate link if you maybe want to check one out. But it does make a big difference. And let me show you an example of that. So I'm going to actually show you one of these here. This is what I used to show my clients to do is take a post-it note and put look here right at your camera. Right? Where did that paper go? Oh, there it is. Okay, I got it. So now it kind of forces your brain to say, look here, right? So instead of doing that, now what I did is, let me come back here for 1 second to show you. What I teach some people to do is to take a index card, and I just roughly did this. Cut a hole inside that index card. Now you could place it over, let me do it like this. You could place it over your webcam or over the camera that you're about to look into. Okay. And what I have here is these dots. These are talking points. Right. So now I don't have to look and then look down to see my talking point. Right. I can take this and put it right over my camera. So as I'm looking into that webcam, I'm seeing my talking points, right? Little things right there. And I could just kind of peripheral vision and look at it. It looks like I'm still looking directly at you, and I'm seeing the next talking point where I need to go, and so forth, like that, right there, right? So let me show you one of these here really quick in action. Let me go back to that screen, and I want to show you just a really quick thing of how that looks when I go back there. So let me get back right here. Okay, perfect. So take a look here at this here.
With traditional webcams, if it appears I'm looking at you, I'm actually not. I'm looking at a tiny camera. I can barely even see you in my peripheral vision. If I actually look at you on screen, it looks like I'm looking down and not really paying any attention at all. With most communication being nonverbal, not seeing eye to eye is a huge problem. Now, you can easily fix that with the new eye contact web camera. Just plug it in, drop it on, and line up the camera. Now you're finally making eye contact with the person on screen.
Woo, finally making eye contact with the person on screen. That gave me chills there for a second, right? So, but there's many more out there. Just research, see which one works best for you. I'm an affiliate of them. If you go with it, I put the link in there. You can check it out. But it majorly makes a big difference. Recently, I was doing a training, and I did not know it at the time, but I had a 6-time Emmy Award winner producer in my training, and they asked me about it. They got the camera and they're using it now. Wrote a review about it and they rave about it. And but an Emmy producer inside the training, right? We know how hard it is to get those production things there. Okay, so
Mhm.
I'm going to. We got about what's my clock at? A few more minutes. Okay, about
Yeah,
10 more minutes.
actually,
Go
Lion,
for it.
we're a little bit over.
Okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
done.
fantastic. But I've put some links in the chat. I'm sorry about the reverb for those of you that are hearing. So Lion has offered one of those free backgrounds. If you participate in the VIP package, I have put the link for the VIP package in the chat. And of course, Lion has his affiliate link for the iCamera also in the chat. So, Lion, this has been amazing. I've got half a page of notes. I wish I had talked to you before this presentation. We could have made it much more much more animated. I'm truly grateful for you being here. Lion's going to be back at 4 o'clock for the Q&A period. He has to drop off for a little bit between now and then, but Lion will look forward to seeing you back at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I look forward to seeing you then.
Thank you so very much, everyone. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you, Lion.
Very cool.
Very cool. Okay, next up. So thank you so much. I'm just going to mute Lion. Oh, there, the reverb went. Fantastic. Next up in our seminar here today, I have a beautiful, beautiful lady joining us. She is with Right Step Coaching. And Karis, you are the experience. So thank you so much for joining us today.
I am the experience. I don't even know what that means, but I feel Lion was an experience.
Wasn't he? He's amazing.
He was,
Yes.
absolutely, and took so much away from that experience with Lion.
Mhm.
But to give a little bit of background on myself, I am a retired banker turned business and executive coach. So I spent 25 years in corporate banking, in frontline leadership, and moved several years ago into those sales coaching, leadership coaching. And because I was a business banker, I kind of landed into what is the perfect culmination of all of my roles together, which allows me to support business owners becoming organized and profitable.
Amazing.
Mhm.
Amazing. So, Karis, you've worked with a lot of leaders and business owners. What patterns do you see in people who struggle to be visible, even when they have something valuable to say?
Yeah, I love that question. So many of us have a message to share,
Mm.
and sometimes we have barriers that hold us back from really bringing to life that thing that we want to share with the world. And what I notice most of all that hold us back from that is finding our confidence to be able to do that. It might be fear. It might be a story or pain from the past. For myself, I was always the person behind the scene where I had siblings and parents who were performers.
Mhm.
So I somehow tangled that up into this belief that my job's behind making sure everybody else looks great instead of actually stepping up, taking the mic, and sharing the message in the world. And so that really has shaped a lot of the leaders that I coach, and I've coached thousands of leaders over the last 15 years to being able to have that confidence. There's a beautiful book by Ruth Skolp called Do It Scared. And she talks about understanding what the motivation is to bring that message to the world. And even though you may have that narrative, still jump in and do it. Take,
Absolutely.
mm-hmm.
Mhm. I can totally relate, and not that I want to divert from your conversation, but even just putting together this seminar here today, I too, I'm the youngest. I'm the youngest in my family. My dad had a large business, and even in my own family, the mother of two boys, we ran a very successful concrete company for 25 years. I was always the supporting role, right? And here I am stepping out. So can you walk us through the moment where visibility felt uncomfortable for you? And how did you move through it?
Yeah, I think there's moments like that even today as I take further and further steps along this journey. But I think a pivotal one for me was several years ago. I was behind the scenes supporting other leaders. I really knew that I could make a big impact in the organization that I was in, and being able to step into a internal facilitator role. I was terrified. I looked up to a lot of these great facilitators and didn't have the confidence. And so the push was I wanted to do something greater than myself. That desire to help support other leaders was bigger than the fear that I had inside. I don't know if I will ever fully get away from the butterflies in my stomach before I step onto stage or before I step into a facilitation. It's always going to be there. But what I've been able to do is reframe that fear into excitement. So it's what do I get to learn? What do I get to learn from Lion today and follow that incredible act? What am I going to take from that energy that he brought onto stage and amplify that so I can bring that forward to the next person? And if I can make that impact for one person
Mhm.
and they can become a stronger leader or more confident or have clarity or whatever the messaging happens to be, I've done my job. and I can rest. Charlotte, you're nodding, you're resonating with that. Yeah.
Yeah, so when you coach leaders to step into that, you offered a bit of a reframe. What are some of the biggest objections that leaders have when they're too afraid to step over that next threshold, whatever it may be?
Yeah, it's worry about what I hear most about business owners and leaders is I'm worried about judgment. I'm worried I'm gonna fall flat on my face and I'm gonna fail. I'm not sure I'm gonna get the feedback that I was great, and so my ego might get bruised. And so the experience and recommendation that I have for them is failure is a four-letter word that means further attempt in learning.
Oh, I love
Further
that.
attempt in learning.
We
And
we need
so
we need Lion's sign.
we need that. I'm going to walk around with a poster board, further attempt in learning, so that we have that opportunity to reframe that from being a fixed mindset into a growth mindset. And lots of us have heard about Carol Dweck's work in mindset research, but really taking that opportunity to go, this is a learning moment, this is a moment in time, and in 6 months, in 3 months, in 10 years, I'm going to be even better than I was today. Because how many of us, I know one of the things that terrified me was learning to drive a car and stepping on gas that first time and moving into the road that first time. But all of a sudden, after 6 months, or maybe if you're Lion, probably 2 weeks, and you're just cruising down the road with one hand and you're going, I got this, I got this. And everything that we do in life is exactly that. It is an opportunity for us to just progress forward, take what did we experience in that, those butterflies in our stomach, they're actually exciting. They're actually something that we can use.
I agree. I and we can use those butterflies in our stomachs too. As you said, shift the reframe. And instead of thinking that we can't prioritize these things that create growth for us, the reframe is we can, and dare I even say we must. Just
Mm.
leaning back onto what your biggest personal push was. There's this essence inside of us that just says, even though I'm afraid, I have to. I have to. I have a question. So I know that you coach leaders, and I know you're brilliant at what you do, and you've been doing it for a number of years. What is the biggest transformation that you have seen in one of your own clients, say over a 12-month period, when you have actively moved them from quietness, meekness into that true leadership of being just bold and speaking the truth of whatever the leader represents.
That's a great question. So there's been a number of different people, but to talk about that transformation from meek to really able to step into boldness was a senior executive. She was actually at that AVP, so it's almost VP level. And what got her there was her brilliance, her expertise. But what was stifling her was the ability to actually give feedback to her team and how it was actually coming out so profoundly was she couldn't even speak up in team meetings. This was just detrimental. If you think about that AVP level, you're supposed to be up giving speeches, you're supposed to be setting direction, you're supposed to be giving feedback. And here is this brilliant, bright person who is just not able to do that. And so the impact on her initially was she knew she was at risk for staying in that role. And so through the course of working with me over, I'm still working with her, but we're 8 months in now, is she has recognized what that boldness is. She's stepping into it. She's doing things, as she puts it, is monumentally scary AF. And she's going, I'm just doing it anyway. Because she knows that on the other side of that fear is going to be a feeling of good, of accomplishment, of breaking through things that has been stifling her for years. And so there's a number of different techniques that we've used, but a lot of it is setting up what the intention is. So what's happening in the moment of your body before you have to go give that feedback? What is the preparation that you need to do? What is the messaging that you need? If you need to bring notes, don't worry about it. It's not a crutch. There's no heroes here. Bring your notes. If you need to frame it as, I might stumble through this, but it's because I care so much about what the message is, or what I feel about your growth. And then take a deep breath and step into it.
Could you just repeat those steps again, please?
Mm-hmm. So I have a model that I do. I call it kind of a warm up and a cool down with every single interaction, whether it's the day, the week, or whatnot. And it's CPR. So think CPR. What are you're breathing, right? So you're going to take a breath. You're going to prep. You're going to think about your priorities, and then you're going to connect it to the mind and body. And so it's connection, it's prepared, and it's how am I going to respond?
What is the physical change? Like, as a coach, I know that with that framework, you see a physical change in the person. Can you describe what you see kind of before and after they go through this very short framework?
Hmm. What it is you'll see often that body language, like I'm slumped down. And then all of a sudden, when you're taking that breath and you're recognizing what you need to step into, what is that boldness? I saw, Lion, you put up a couple of superheroes. So some people have to think about that superhero pose. Who am I embodying in that moment? What do I want to achieve? And what is this all about? And then all of a sudden, as you breathe, you bring your shoulders back.
Mhm.
And there's a physical change that happens. Charlotte, I get the feeling that you've seen this before and you know exactly what I'm talking about. And that is what's coming into the world. And then all of a sudden it's okay, I can step forward. And so it's that step forward that allows us to take that courage. And so even after doing it, you can see a palpable difference before they go in and prep themselves for that session. And they might come sit with me before they have that conversation, or with business owners. Oh my goodness, I've got this really big decision I need to make. And then they're going and ripping off the Band-Aid, and then they're coming back and seeing you a week or 2 weeks later, and you're like, check in, and they're like, oh my goodness, high five, we got this. Like, I feel so amazing. Or it's you know what, it didn't go quite as well it was, but I am 3 steps ahead.
Mhm.
I'm ready to move forward. I can do this again.
Because once we step into that sense of clarity, right, and putting our egos aside and doing it for the better, stepping into that leadership role for, the betterment not only of the company, but for the people that work there, for your own personal growth. I mean, people step into leadership for a myriad of reasons. Um, how how do you help them kind of understand what their priorities are, and how do you help them figure out the honesty in those priorities? Because sometimes, we have these filters, we have these veils on us, and we think that we have to do it one way, the one way to keep us safe, one way, to not get our ego bruised, one way to not show up. But how do we get honest about the priorities? Like, I am doing this because.
Mm. Everything starts with mindset, and everything starts with clarity. So the mindset of what is it that you want to accomplish from this, but it's really getting granular about what are your values,
Mhm.
what are your core beliefs, and what is truly, truly meaningful for you. And often, where in business there is a misalignment, is often we don't understand how our core values and what we truly believe aligns or does not align with a company initiative or with their value statement or that particular set of expectations. And so it's getting really clear about what that is first and how you feel about it so that you're not toting the party line and just speaking off of the, plaque on the end of the wall, and this is why I need to do it. You need to truly understand in here what is meaningful about that, and whether it's change management, whether it's something that you're asking them to do for yourself, and then also asking the questions for your folks that you're supporting or your coworkers or your boss. Like, what makes this meaningful for you so that you can help them connect to it? So it's clarity in that. And if you're a business owner, it's also clarity in what are you wanting to do with your business? What are you wanting to bring? Who are your people that you want to connect with? And once you have really, really good understanding of that, being able to be confident enough to say no to that client that's like, hey, I want to work with you, but they're not the right fit. And having the confidence to say, I have somebody who you'll resonate with. And know that that will come back to you because the universe will have what you need. And those people that you want to be working with will come and they'll find you.
I have one client that I'm thinking of, and I think he's a perfect example to demonstrate what you just said. We have to resonate with our core values have to resonate with the core values of the company. And all of it is to help us serve a higher purpose in our lives. Now, that higher purpose is up for you to define. And I had one client and I asked him, I said, what is the purpose of your business? And, after some thought and some coaching, and he eventually came up with, I want to be able to make so much money that I can give it away. Now, initially, you might think that that's a little bit of an egoic statement. This guy just wants money. But his reason actually went deeper. His mother was getting elderly, and he wanted to be able to pay for renovations in her home. His daughter was going to university, and he wanted to be able to pay for full ride scholarships. He wanted to be able to donate within his community without restrictions, right? So to be able to serve the people that were important to him, he determined that or equated that to having enough money to be able to give it away. So when we're talking core values, I think that that's a really good example of um, how we want to be able to resonate with our leadership, and that chutzpah that we have to have in order to step into that next step. Amazing. Amazing. I do have another question for you. Some entrepreneurs are afraid that if they lift others up, they will actually fade into the background. What would you say to someone who feels that way?
Mm. Well, I would say I live in that industry. You can't walk a block without stepping over 4 different coaches, and then go another 3 miles, and you're coming across probably dozens and dozens of coaches. Oh, Lion, that resonates with you. He's like, oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so my response to that is we have to lift each other up. We have to understand what our mission, our vision, our values, what we bring to the world, and that we will have our fair share of people that we deal with. And the more that we actually collaborate or refer out, it will come back in spades. It's understanding ourselves and having the confidence that what you have has value, and being able to say, it's okay. I'm at a networking group and there's 7, 8, 10 other coaches, which is not uncommon for the spaces that I go and network in, to say, you know what, I'm going to talk to somebody and actually they're going to be a better fit for Cheryl. They're going to be a better fit for Lion. And that's okay, because I know if I do that, Lion's going to have better respect for me. And he's going to say, hey, you know what? This is my space, but you need to go talk to somebody about executive and leadership coaching or business coaching from an organizational space. Oh, you got to go talk to Karis. She's amazing. And we're going to do that in order to support one another.
Amazing. Karis, I know that you have brought a VIP package with you
I
today.
have.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I run a program called the Clarity Path. It is a 6-week program to help get clarity. So, or re-clarify if things have gotten a little fuzzy in your leadership or in your business, to help you get back on the right path. Full pun intended on that. So throughout that, it is a group coaching cohort. There is a one-on-one option as well, but this particular offering is to join the group coaching cohort that's coming up at the end of September.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Karis. I've put the link for the VIP opportunity into the chat. So if you'd like to check that out, I'll post the links for the VIP opportunity at the end of every speaker's opportunity. So thank you so much for joining us, Karis. I learned a little bit more today about what it takes to step into leadership and to be able to truly understand the importance of knowing my personal why. Why is this important?
Thank you so much for
Amazing.
the opportunity, Carol. Can't wait to hear the other speakers today.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so next up on the slot, I feel like we're just going boom, 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 boom. This is amazing. I love it. We have another really smart, wonderful person. And this person is actually a near and dear friend of mine. I have known this person for almost 20 years, so I know her brilliance. So, Wendy Burge is the founder of Radiant Edge Consulting, where she helps women reclaim their business clarity by aligning their marketing, offers, and strategy with how they actually work and live. Blending human design, bold messaging, and over 30 years of entrepreneurship, she equips soul-led experts to design sustainable, spacious, and profitability-attuned businesses that don't rely on hustle or hype. Her approach is rooted in structure before strategy, and her clients often say, I didn't realize I was missing myself inside my own business until now. So, Wendy, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Great introduction. I was waiting for that. I feel like it's old home week. I haven't talked to you in a while, so I was like so excited to be here today. So congratulations on putting all this together.
Thank you. Thank you. We have this fantastic lineup of speakers, and I'm just on the edge of my seat just listening to everybody. I mean, Lion's been fantastic. Karis has been fantastic. I know you're going to be fantastic. So
The
let
pressure.
no pressure.
No, I'm kidding.
Because here's the thing. I know with all the speakers here today, they only have to show up as themselves and what they're passionate about,
Right.
right?
100%.
Right. So I'm going to start off with a first question here. How can someone tell if they're outsourcing their authority in business? And what is the first step to reclaiming it back?
Oh, that's a good question. I find that a lot of people begin outsourcing their authority when they start trusting and believing in everybody else's process but their own. So they bump up against, the next shiny object syndrome. They're trying to implement a strategy that's really not the best fit for their business. So what I find is it's actually almost a physical reaction to their authority being dismissed, and it can look like exhaustion. It can look like overwhelm. It can look like confusion. It sounds like mixed messaging. It sounds like poor communications. So and I was just jumped in on the tail end of Karis's talk, and I was like, oh, good, totally aligned. That's exactly what I'm talking about when I work with people, is that we habitually have fallen into this pattern of trying to hustle and I call it the proving pattern. The more I do, the better I'm supposed to be. And that actually is counterintuitive to how we actually need to operate. So stepping back, the first thing that I often include in my work with my clients is really taking what I call the sacred pause and asking yourself some very important questions that will physically give you a reaction. Because if you're physically having illness from your work, we have a problem here. Like, that's a very serious issue, that you've built something that you don't love, right?
Oh, sorry. Would you say that you are the method? What does that mean? And in the context of the marketing positioning and your personal branding?
So that's a second pillar of my process called the Radiant Edge method. And the second pillar is you are the method after your structure is your before strategy. So I find that a lot of people, I come to me, I don't get like new, fresh out of college kind of clients. I get people who've been working for years and years in their expertise. And either they've been at a C-suite level and they really need to understand how to package that knowledge and allow themselves that permission to be fully embodied in their own authority. It's a very different game when you're removing all the extra structures that they have inside of corporations, or inside of, maybe they've been an employee, or they've been very successful in one element of business and then they start their own, and relying on themselves becomes incredibly difficult because they've never really thought about who they need to be in order to present this whole new feature of themselves in the world. It's not just about regurgitating more information out there. There's plenty of information. It's really about succinctly being able to claim your own point of view and your own authority within the structure of what makes your solution better. Why do you think it's different? Where's your experience come from? So your authority comes from a place of confidence and conviction that I find sometimes people are missing. They think that they just do the thing, they say the thing, they step forward, it should just work. It should just all fall into place. And it doesn't. I have seen, I had a Harvard PhD doctor sit with me almost like in tears, like, why can't I do this? I literally have a PhD. And I was like, you're trying to share way too much knowledge too fast, at a level that people don't understand. So we need to step back a little bit, figure out what is your core premise and move forward. So you are the method, but a lot of times our brilliance is hidden in our blind spots, and we have to deconstruct the conversation before we can actually build a structure that makes most sense. And then from there, really qualify where your buyer is or your client is at that specific point in their journey. So it's matching.
Just a really quick side note here. What I'm noticing is between Wendy and Karis and Lion, it's, the main message here is really just either breathe it in, suck it up, whatever phrase you want to use, but don't let any excuses get in your way of being bold.
Mhm.
And we have to on purpose decide to be bolder. So that's just a little side thing that I'm noticing here. Wendy, one of the things that I really love about how you work, I've seen you work, I've worked with you, I've sat on the couch in your living room while you've taken client calls and overheard your conversations. And you just touched on it. You really peel back the offers so that what people are giving doesn't deplete themselves. I
Right.
think you said something, we give too much too fast.
Mhm.
And I think that that's one of the brilliant things that you offer is you're really able to hone in on the marketable piece, but it's more important than just marketing. It's about people being able to A, maintain integrity, and B, not burning out.
Right.
Right? So
Right.
I've seen you do that. And how, how has that transformed the lives of some of your clients? Can you give us an example?
Oh, for sure. I had, so what you're talking about is actually giving people the container, helping them build the proper container that supports the transformation that they're trying to create with the client. And a lot of times we just, I mean, let's think about it. Most of us did not grow up with entrepreneurial parents. The only transactional experience we've ever had is if I pay you money like this, and I'm going to get this thing like that. Except for that majority of people that I work with, transformation also requires an element of co-collaboration with the client so that we have to step forward and we need to support them for their growth. And inside of that, a lot of the service structures that I see built don't account for all the things that we're doing with clients. So we need to get very clear, and I have a framework that I work with people on to really make sure that we're doing the right thing at the right time. Because at any given moment with any client experience, you're either assessing what's happening, you're developing a strategy, then you're going to help them implement the change. Now you're going to show them how to execute. And now you're going to do the optimization. And there's teaching, there's support, there's there's brainstorming, there's so much happening that if you do not sit back and go, well, what exactly am I doing at these different stages of this process? The first thing I see is everybody throws everything into a bucket, pours it out. And like I said, my previous client, I told him, I was like, it's like you hand a 400 level textbook to a freshman and say, everybody sign up for organic chemistry. And the guy goes, I just wanted a science class. Like, what are you talking about? So it's too much information too fast. So in many cases, what I do is with my clients, and specific, let's talk about that fella, is we stripped it down to the very basic problem solution. What was the initial problem that he felt was the primary issue that he was targeting with his particular audience? And when we start stripping it down, I kind of figured that, and this has only come out of years of working with people and building offers. I probably built over $10 million worth of offers, if not more. Just helping people understand where does this all work together, is that if you can go in and pinpoint exactly the primary issue that you see initially your clients are struggling with, like if they just pulled that one linchpin, a lot of the symptomology that they keep experiencing would pretty much go away. So if you can figure out what that root issue is and target that first, that becomes a great starting point. And then my next question for most people is, and then what happens? Because that becomes the 200 level series. And then what happens? That's a 300. Not everybody's going to be there at the same time. So we need to be really mindful. And I'm a huge advocate of I was a client success coach, much similar to how you work with your other role for many years. And it's really important that we understand that journey so that we're not mismatching and misaligning expectations with outcomes, because that is where we get into trouble with clients. So slow down, figure it out to speed up and actually deliver appropriately. And then also for us, now we feel like we can be in our power. And there's such a resistance to put structure around our processes sometimes, because a lot of times people tell me, oh, I can't do that until I'm in the room with the person and I have the conversation. And I'm like, really? But you can't dance without a dance floor. You need to have the dance floor. You need to have the clarity so when you get into that process with them, you really understand where the expectations are. They're like the guide rails. You understand how to hold boundaries, a huge issue with clients. You don't overgive, and then you don't over like.
I was having boundary conversations with clients this morning.
Boundaries, I tell you, there's a whole series, yes, on boundaries. And boundaries impact our bank accounts. Because all of a sudden, depending on how you've structured what your offer is, you may pick up the wrong fit client just because you're in desperation and you're like, oh, I can figure it out. Oh, that's the worst thing. When you think, oh, I'll figure it out. I just want to make them happy. Well, now you've just jeopardized your relationship with them. So
well, and your reputation
and your
your
reputation.
process
Right.
and your team. And like when yes. Anyways, Cheryl's here to
really
talk
like,
about,
but that's the big ripple, isn't it? That's the place where people get stuck, and all of a sudden they're having to backtrack on conditions or promises or agreements in their statement of work, because they're like, wow, I was super overachieving on what I think I could actually do. And here's the challenge. I believe we need to do less for clients until they prove to us that they can take that in,
Bingo. Bingo.
right?
Who agrees? Who agrees with that wholeheartedly?
Stop promising the world and don't hand them the moon and say, come on, let's go.
Well, may I? May I?
Absolutely.
I
Yes.
just feel honored, by the way, to look at this panel of amazing people.
I know,
Woo!
right?
Lucky me. I hit the jackpot today. I just want to say that it we just the experience with the client I'm having right now made me just go, poof. It's almost as if I don't want to give you everything, but they're like, I have to have everything. You have to give me everything. And so it's
Yes.
that, it's that,
Yeah.
right?
I'm sure
Yeah.
Cheryl's going to address that because they're not ready.
No.
The fact of the matter is, it's, and I know we've all heard this analogy before, but you got to learn to walk before you can run.
Right.
And back to Wendy's point, if you give them, third or fourth level university information when all they wanted was a science class, you're not serving anybody,
No.
right? So Wendy helps her clients understand, first of all, their own brilliance, and secondly, how do we package that
Mhm.
brilliance? Now, along with that comes the fear of being seen, right?
Right.
Or the fear of I'm not ready, or even just the fear of visibility. So how do you help clients move through that?
So let's really call it what it is. A lot of that is overthinking, and also it's part of this proving pattern that most of us have been subjected to, that the more I do, the more value I seem to have, and that's not a true statement. So it is counterintuitive for most of us because we've been told that if you're not doing enough, you must do more to show your value. And that's a cultural problem that we have, that I think I'm hearing more and more of people just stopping the brakes because, in fact, I was listening to something today and they were talking about performance punishment
I heard that today too.
for people who are so good at doing their job that instead of celebrating them in their work or their role, they're actually they're like given more and faster and deadlines. And I think we are at a point in business, especially if you are in a leadership role or you're inside of a larger organization, that people are hitting the brakes going, wait, this is enough. Like, what are we doing here? So when it comes to visibility for me is now less about, it's really about claiming your value, understanding that your value has nothing to do with more, the word more, more is not better, better is better. And so what I really like to see people do is embody that value by showing up and understanding that this sales process, bringing people into your world, is not just transactional, it's transformative. Our job is to actually help people grow.
Yeah.
Whether you're talking about organizational transformation and change management, or you're talking personal development, our job is to help invite people in to have a completely different version of themselves through us, which allows us to set up a better structure of how we support people and also give them some accountability back to what's going on, because that's a problem. And that's actually a huge attribute if you start looking at, are your people who you're qualifying as good candidates? Because once you start understanding how you work, you can build better frames of reference about who's a better fit. And,
Absolutely.
and so the visibility piece comes back into, how clear are you on your value? Do you have conviction in your points of view and your thought leadership? Can you walk your talk? Like, that's a big issue for me because I see people who build businesses, you open the door and it's just a hot mess inside. So one of my taglines is I help people build business just as good on the inside as they look on the out. Because if you can't own that, I don't want any part of it. Like, we've all been disappointed by businesses.
Right?
It's like, that's the worst reputation breaker you can have, is by not your promise, got the nice curb appeal, but when they walk in that house, forget it. If it's 1970s shag, forget it. So, I forgot I'm dating myself. 80s, 90s, where are we at?
Right? That's okay. I'm right there with you. It's all good. It's all good. So what I'm hearing here is that not only are we looking to provide the transformation to peel back all the goodies that our your clients want to give,
For sure.
because they're not so strong in their personal confidence. They hide behind the tools,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Um, what is, like, energetically, Um, what's the self-awareness piece that goes with that to help us align with that, to move past the visibility blocks and move past some of those perfectionist loops?
Thank you for asking that. That is a really good question. Like I said, first of all, I believe this ties back to a lot of overthinking, which is kind of a survival response. If I keep figuring it out, I can't fail. If I keep researching it, I can't be rejected, right? If I keep perfecting it, I can't be criticized. So what I find is people regurgitate information they really don't get anywhere too fast if I keep rebuilding my platforms. So a lot of times it's like this obsessive behavior. It might be, we've all heard of analysis paralysis. And so understanding why we're getting stuck here is often, I think, part of hustle culture. It's poisoning us to think that we, again, have to do more, be more. And what I'd really like to see people do is understand, or what people to understand, I don't want any doing, is just be able to sit with themselves and understand that overthinking cannot um, be healed through more rigid structures. Overthinking needs to come back into recentering ourselves and our own bodies. And I love that Kara even talked about that a bit. So using more breathing techniques to recenter yourself and understand that your heart and your body knows what's best for you. So what I call it rituals of enoughness. So doing smaller things that show me and validate that I don't need to be doing more to do that. I can step forward and stop the overthinking. And some of that can be tracking in your daily journal, or if you keep a journal, or in your daily calendar, all those little wins for the day. It could be that somebody thanked you. So we need to start building this muscle of enoughness so that we can keep validating for ourselves what this is. And I also do a little bit of breathing practice with people and have them answer a couple of questions. And one of them is, am I acting out of fear or love? Am I contracting or expanding out of this situation, whatever the situation is, and really trying to figure out that point. And my background is as a therapist, then turned coach, and then turned into a business coach. So I kind of go back into allowing us to take ownership of ourselves and not deflect it. Because at the end of the day, if we're not fully operational in ourselves, we're making poor choices for everything that we do. So um, your body knows the difference. Like I said, your body knows the difference.
Um, how What I also hear from you is that you spend a lot of time, um, I'm just imagining you sitting in a session with a client, right? And you're
Mhm.
talking, 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 and I just see you putting the mirror back up. Um, I think I've heard you say before, you don't need a niche, you need a mirror. What did you mean by that?
Oh, I love that phrase because it really kind of stops people in their tracks because everybody's so niche driven. I mean, unless you're doing some massive retargeting and rebranding, most of your clients, most of the people that you're aligned to are energetically aligned with your values. They resonate around the same ideas that you have. They have the same desire or goals. And if you don't know what that is and you're putting stuff out there, you're going to have this disconnect. Karis's example was perfect. You don't confidently step forward and claim that space and say, this is what I believe. This is why we're doing what we're doing. This is how we're going to achieve it. This is what I want for you. So I think that the mirror first comes back to us when we get clarity about who we are as individuals, where our own leadership improves because it's less about proving and it's less about I needing to be liked and it's less about disappointing people or it's less about needing to have that validation. And great leadership, the people who I've always watched that had the best leadership style were the ones that didn't need all the accolades. They were so great at just stepping into the room and championing other people. And I know they could do that because they didn't need anything from us. Their job was to help move people forward too, and they were very aware of it. So I always love speaking with people in the entrepreneurship world because it is such a key component of your success is to have that mirror turned on you, because anything that you're struggling with is a place to start investigating,
Right.
right?
I always say that, in, I deal with a lot of, businesses that have been in business for kind of 3 to 8 years. They're still struggling a little bit with their teams. They're trying to make that shift
Mhm.
to the CEO. And when I ask them and I say to them, okay, what's your job description as a CEO? And they're like, oh. And I always include that your job is now, all the other things, but it's also now to lean your support into your middle management.
Mhm.
Like I get this picture in my mind of someone struggling to climb a bank, and there's the CEO at the bottom pushing them up,
Right,
right? Helping them up. And to me, that too is a really excellent representation of a true leader.
right.
I have a final question for you, Wendy, and
Mhm.
then I'll ask you to talk a little bit about your VIP offer. What is the one sacred experiment you recommend to anyone feeling disconnected from their own voice or thought leadership path?
Well, since they don't have the privilege of traveling with you over a weekend, and it's been like you and I have gone back and forth and literally masterminded for full weekends, I would say that the best thing to do is really to give yourself some sacred space and take a pause and figure out what it is that you really desire. I think that our heads override a lot of the things that our hearts are saying. I think that we're at a time in business where we understand that those structures aren't working anymore for people, and that if not everything has to be and is not always transactional. It must be transformative, because there's something that feels kind of off when everything just feels transactional. And when we get into a place of having some sacred for ourselves, whether that means you're getting up and spending your first hour of your day just aligning yourself with your, writing, journaling, exercise, whatever that particular outlet is for you, it's really about grounding yourself. Because what I'd like to see people do is just really become present in themselves. That to me is, and you and I've had many conversations about getting owners to become present and not be performative. We don't need any more people performing success, right? It's just such um, a paradox of how to get there. Most people's success is in increments, and really success is an inside job. We've all heard that, and it comes down to that. And I do want to leave you with one thought, is that I think in business, most people think of business people like the sun, that we're orbiting this bright, shining person, but there's no way to sustain that energy. And I encourage people to think of the way we operate more like a moon, because there's going to be periods in our businesses where we'll have waning and waxing, rising and setting. And the moon still influences even when it's dark out. We don't need that. It pulls on tides. It does a lot of things, even in the darkness, that we can set up in our systems that don't rely so much on us having to push, because there is just no way to be sustainable. And sustainability is number one, the conversation I have with everybody who walks in the door with me. How do I create something that's more sustainable? I'm tired. I don't want to do it this way. I want something with more ease, or I don't have to have so many moving parts. So what can we do to really look at helping people create something that tracks and moves and helps people flow into growth and empowerment in a way that's, I don't care if you're the plumber or you're the PhD.
Mhm.
Everybody's having a visceral response to the world right now. And I think we're all looking for something that's more aligned with who we are, so that we can show up better. Because I think our whole job is to give permission and remember who we are, so each other can be more fully expressed.
Yeah.
And
And just based on that, and you and I haven't talked about this, but I have actually made a decision that other than, some of the core coaching that I'm committed to during the week, because we all know that we have clients that come in on reoccurring schedules.
Right.
I am not saying yes to anything outside of that the first full week of the month.
Perfect.
I've decided that because just like you said, we had 3 months of expand, expand, expand. And if we don't take that time to digest and reflect and, for me, time in the garden, I need that time in the garden, right? Bare feet on the ground. Um, if you don't have that time, then you just get so wrapped up in your head. And to me, you get lost.
Right. Well,
So,
and I think when you and I first met, we both had different kinds of businesses, and that's how we met each other.
mhm,
Your business and my business had seasons, and
yes.
we acknowledged that. We didn't panic. We knew it was just winter's winter, summer's summer. I mean, I never booked anything in my clinic for 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks of August. Everybody was gone. I just shut down.
Mhm,
So when you start looking at working with seasons and cycles and your own energy resources, I mean, most of our energy is sourced off of data anymore instead of our own, and that becomes the driver instead of ourselves. So that's why people get exhausted, is they don't feel like they're keeping up.
burnout.
And we want to stop and step back and say, well, what is this information really doing for me? And do I need to do all of this stuff? And most of the time you don't.
You don't,
Most of the
yeah.
time you don't.
Tell us about your offer, Wendy.
Oh, thank you. I have a leadership brand authenticity audit. So helping people leadership go through these, I have 5 particular segments that I broken down, asking you some questions to evaluate. And you can step in and take a look at this. Once you've done this, I'm giving people the opportunity to have a review of the findings with me. 40, I always say 30 minutes, but my 30 minutes always runs into an hour. I also want people to bring their latest, communications, whether it's a website, whatever their key communication marketing is. Let me see it. Let me take a look. Let me talk with you about your offers. Let's make sure everything's aligned and that you're getting the best of you out in the world, that you really understand your thought leadership. Because when you get all of these things locked into place, they become fluid and people resonate with your energy and you don't have to push so hard.
Mhm.
I've seen your presence online quite a bit lately. And, everybody who's here probably didn't have to hesitate to say yes to you. Your energy is, and your conviction and your clarity about what you want to achieve with people on this summit is very clear. Makes it easy. An easy yes is always preferred.
Easy yes is what we're all driving for.
Preferred.
Always, always.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Wendy, for deciding to be here with us today. Your insights are valuable as always.
Thank you. I look forward to
Let's
everybody else.
Awesome. Let's move on to our next speaker. Now, I haven't actually personally met our next speaker yet, but I've I know people who know her, and I've read all of her stuff, and I'm very excited to have her here with us today. So, Christine Campbell Rapin is an energetic, tell it like it is business advisor, mentor, consultant, speaker, and a 3 times international best-selling author. She has supported over 400 companies to create a combined revenue of more than $1 billion and believes that growth can be elegantly simple when you focus on the 3 non-negotiable business foundations that build a client growth engine. Christine, welcome to the summit here today.
Thank you. I'm excited to play together for the first time.
Yeah, yeah. So, Christine, what are the 2 factors that predict revenue in the next 90 days? Let's just get right into it.
Let's jump right in. So most people run their business with but a million tabs open, trying to do a million things, and it's all utter distraction. There's only 2 things that really matter. And until you have the business you want, which means the revenue you want, the amount of clients you want, the kind of clients you want, selling the programs that you want, you need to stop with the BS. So number 1, people don't tell you this, but your business is built on strangers, always. This isn't a problem you solve once. This isn't a problem you solve just at the beginning. This is the problem of business. And it's important to understand that a buyer is not the same as a looky-loo. A buyer is not the same as a general audience. And we got to nail who the next buyer is, because they're not the same as your current client. And so the first thing is how many people you are meeting that have the potential to be a buyer for you, and what is their current buying urgency. And the second piece to that is money will only move hands if you make the offer, and you do not control how people respond to an offer, but you control how many offers are going out. And if you want to create more stability, I will tell you, you're not meeting enough people and you're not making enough offers, and therefore you're on the roller coaster you created.
Right.
You want off it? Let's do this better.
Right? How many people, like, how often do you get resistance when you tell people you have to make more offers or you have to make a offer?
A
Like,
lot.
what's the resistance? What is that like?
Can I do anything else but? Is the
Yeah.
answer I get a lot, until they're my clients and they're like, I'm excited to tell you how many offers I made today. And we track this. And I said, like, everybody has zeros. Like, you know, we take time out of our business, we get off our mojo, we do get into our choiceful distractions, but this is business 101 math. And people are like, but I bought into this, belief that if I just post on social media, I'll make sales. And that people will just randomly trip over themselves and throw open their wallet and it rains down money at you. And it's really an expectation people have. And I say, you know, what's your number one priority today? And I ask this in every room I'm in. And I get everything from, you know, I need to update my logo. I need to change my website. I'm working on a book that will come out in 2029. I, spent my day at networking events. I did everything. And I'm like, did you make any offers today? And they're like, oh, well, but my things will lead to an offer. And I'm like, bull crap. That's a someday plan. And can you afford a someday plan? They're like, no, I need clients today. I'm like, then do the simpler thing first. And you must manage the discomfort of learning to get great at sales, because sales solves everything.
Well, and there's discomfort in everything as we're learning. I referenced earlier, you have to, if you're a baby, you have to learn to walk before you run. There's
That's right.
there's discomfort in everything. How do you help manage your clients through that discomfort?
So the first thing, we get really clear on a system of business. So we talk about, what do you do the first hour of every day? And I have a really structured thing that I look with and we build with clients of ours. And it's like, we have to manage the money. Like, don't get weird about anything other than your business is about the exchange of money. You can decide how much money. Money is a thing. It doesn't judge you. It doesn't shame you. It's just a tool, but money is not an optional conversation in my space. And Dr. Shaw, who's been in my space for a while, sometimes she's like, Christine's going to come at this hard. I am. And so I say, the first thing you want to do is check your bank first thing in the morning. You need to know where your money's at. What came in, what went out, where are you standing from a cash flow perspective? Because most businesses die because of cash flow. Right. Second thing we look at is, like, what happened with the offers that we expected contracts to go out. The things I said I would send proposals. If we do proposals in our business style, did the proposals go out? Then we're looking at, who do I need to follow up with that is closest to money? And I make sure I have a clear call plan. Notice I said call, not email, not voicemail, call.
Right.
Call plan to actually talk to them. And I said, we look after all of our short path to money before we go check our email, before we start the social media scroll, before we do the do of client delivery, because current clients are already decided. Your number one priority is to get in front of those that are deciding. And deciding is everything. And so we help people build systems so that they know how to not let their day go astray, and how to set really clear intentions around, what is my job as the business owner?
Right.
Not,
right.
You don't get paid to show up. You get paid to move the needle. So what are your needle movers? And are you disciplined with them? And if you're not disciplined, welcome to the human race. Most of us are not. So equip yourself with systems, tools, rooms, in communities that will hold you to the fire, because that is a system for success and everyone has lots of data on that.
Love that. Yeah, starting your day with the money piece. I So many people are so afraid of money. What do you say to those people that are afraid to look at that? Either they don't understand it, their P&L is a mess, they just fired their bookkeeper, they've never, how many clients? I had one client, $4.5 million renovation contractor, and he never did any kind of books. Never.
Great.
So what do you say to people when they're afraid for whatever reason to look at their books?
Well, first, I am very clear. This is not optional. Like, I'm just very clear. This is not optional. You are going to be a business owner, which means you have fiscal responsibility for everybody in your org. It's a choice. So if you choose to be in business, I'm sorry, this is not optional. If you don't have the knowledge, no problem. Nobody starts business. Okay, very few, I might be the exception to this rule. Very few people start the world of entrepreneurship with all the business skills they will need, but not having the business skills is lazy, and you must equip yourself with the answers you need. And knowledge, truthfully, is the laziest excuse, and I don't let my clients play there. If you don't know how to read the P&L, no problem. But if you say that 5 years into your business, that's on you. And the team that you hired, because they should not have let you just loosey-goosey that. You need to build the skills. You need to understand that while you can outsource, you cannot abdicate responsibility for it. Because your job as the leader is to make the best decisions with informed knowledge for the better of the most people you look after. And that does not mean they will all be popular, but that's the responsibility of ownership. And that's the choice you made. And so there is a difference between choosing to be a solopreneur where you can, put your head in the sand. And I have lots of clients that come to me and they're like, I've been in business 8 years or 6 years. And they're like, I don't look at my numbers. I'm like, not under my watch. And they're like, I look at my numbers every month now. I'm like, bring up your dashboard. Let's talk about what you're focusing on. I have a client of mine who had come into a session 2 weeks ago, and she's like, I haven't made enough offers in the last 2 weeks, and I'm aware of it. And I'm like, how amazing. She's like, I've never done this in 8 years, but holy crap, I'm aware I have a problem. I'm like, what are you doing? Christine, here's the 5 things I'm doing this week to correct the problem. I'm like, gold star. You're running your business like a business owner. And she's like, this feels amazing. And I am less stressed. And I never sell my services under the idea that, you're going to sleep better at night, but you are, because I will teach you what you don't know as needed, but I will also make sure that you understand, because the biggest legacy of working with a mentor is that you can navigate any decision that is needed. And decision making is the game. There's
It is.
use for that. It is. So when people say I don't love money, and I said, okay, I get it. But the money is not there to shame you. The money is not there to judge you. The numbers just are. And more importantly, where do you want them to move to, and how will we get there?
So many people have shame around money.
Sure.
So many. I can't make that because it was more than my father ever made. Right?
Sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure that those people aren't your clients,
but it is about reframing it. And I mean, just share a story of, because I had a client of mine who, when she hired me, she was during COVID. So take this back a few years. She had COVID money from the US government. And she's like, I don't ever want to make in my business more than $100,000. I'm like, I just need you to do the business math on what $100,000 is for an employee versus an employer, because the math is not the same.
Yeah.
You don't actually keep as much as an employer as you do as an employee. So she said, I never want to make a lot of money because I don't want to pay tax. Again, that's bias. That's been a bias that she came up with. And it's, we don't want to make a lot of money. What will the neighbors think? And she works in the not-for-profit sector. And I said, the biggest misnomer in not-for-profit is that the goal is to be broke. I'm like, no. Not-for-profits should make enormous amounts of money because they do social good with that check. So I don't want you to be a broke not-for-profit. I want you to have money to be able to provide services. And we need to be great fundraisers, great business owners, and make those dollars stretch. And I said, I don't need you to want $1 million business, but tell me your favorite charity and show me what the name of it was. I said, how do you support them today? She said, we donate and volunteer five business days a year of services in kind to this not-for-profit she cares for. I said, well, so you know a bit about the business then? She said, yeah. I said, what's the operating budget? She said, it's $230,000. I said, what if you could create enough revenue in your business that you could gift $230,000 to support the not-for-profit you really care about? Would you want to create more than $70,000? She's like, yes. And I'm like, let's do that. Because it was not about the creation of money, it's what will I use it for?
Mm-hmm.
And if you can get your head around, I choose to use it for employing other people, employing myself, giving back to my charity, the dynamics around the shame shift. And you can always find a positive way to use money and break the cycle. But money just is the tool. I don't have a single client, myself included, that is motivated by money, but we talk about money as a resource, as is bandwidth, human compassion, and presence is value.
And coming back to the example of the client that I'd given earlier, he wanted to be able to make enough money to give it away. Now, he had some very specific thoughts on where he wanted to give it, but it gave him the permission to fully show up in his brilliance and in his business and implement the systems that supported that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And what a win, right? And
a huge
how,
win.
how does he fall back in love with his business? Through that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So Christine, what are three non-negotiables business owners must focus on to create repeatable success?
Well, these are the pillars that every business on the planet needs. And this is what my expertise in that $1 billion in the river mirror came from. You have to understand these foundations because they're about knowing the bricks of the foundation so that you can play the game any way you like. The first is you must understand what a buyer is, and you must be able to spot who is your buyer. And that's about being able to be looking every day for the opportunity and intersect it and be opportunistic with it. Most people think a buyer is the avatar, the ideal client profile. They're 50, they live at this part of the country, they make this much money, here's their habits and social cues. That is a helpful thing in some elements in marketing, but finding your next client, it is zero use. Because chances are if you just use your observational skills, the guy in front of you at Starbucks is actually your next client if you just paid attention. Or the table next to you, or the person at the lineup at the airport, or the person in your lounge. Like, you have to really shift your mind, but we have to know what a buyer is. And to be clear, the biggest thing that buyers are decision makers. Okay, so you're looking for people that want a different outcome and are deciding about how to get it. And you are one vehicle that gets them there. So the first piece is, who's the buyer? And are you able to really see it, feel it, touch it, and move it, spot it quickly? Second thing is that it is about movement. Everybody has marketing requirements in their business. There's a million different marketing tactics out there. If you've heard about the tactic works. If it doesn't work for you, it's not the tactic that's the problem. The tactic works or you wouldn't have heard about it. But you must think about your lane of marketing. One lane preferably until you're successful. Don't add complexity unnecessarily. But taking somebody in the way you choose to market that moves them from curious to paid client. And most people don't realize how slow that is. And I don't mean speed, I mean steps. Google would tell you people will research 7 to 12 touch points before they're visible, and then to another 7 to 20 touch points before they make a decision. So if you only take them to the dance once, it's not surprising they're not going to get to a decision quickly, or you're going to make a decision in your favor. So you have to be clear, how do you keep a human who's highly distracted moving forward, certain in their outcome at a pace that all builds confidence? So what's your lane and how is your strategy running? And is it congruent? Because anytime that you become, incongruent, the audience outside of you has a trust break and they just shop elsewhere. They're trying to decide, am I in the right room? Everything we do reaffirms I'm moving forward, and we're playing to the psychological wiring of our human DNA that says, if I make enough affirmations, I'm almost always predicted to make another. So we want to move them predictably. Yes, 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 micro buy-in, till they say, tell me about your program. Kind of curious because I want that result. And I think you know what you're talking about. Great, let's have that conversation. The third non-negotiable is the offer. The offer has to be positioned in the lens of the buyer. Too many business owners do it in their own justification. I'm nervous, so let me tell you about the 12-week program that includes 3 of this, 7 of that, 2 bobcats, a unicorn, and a lollipop. And they're like, that sounds like work. I'm going to just think on it. And they don't make a decision. And all of that might be needed, but it doesn't help a decision-making behavior move. So you've got to think about, what do they value? What do they need to see, feel, experience in order to say that makes smart money decisions for me? And you have to be sure that you're a must hire and not just a likable expert. And too many people get caught in this, I'm a likable expert, I'm scared to talk about money, I never want to make an offer. And I said, then quit the field, because you will never be a business owner who has stability. Could you win? 100%. But I want businesses to be stable, predictable. I want you to have paychecks every month. I want you to be able to pay your staff in every payroll period. And the only way you do that is if you have consistent clients, because sales solves everything. And so I think those principles, so who's the buyer, how do we move them, and what makes you the must hire in the eye of the buyer, are not optional business principles. They're the foundations of your repeating success story.
So, so I'm hearing a couple of repeating things here. When we were talking about the offer being positioned in the eye of the buyer, I heard you affirm something that Wendy said, that quite often the person doing the selling dumps too much information
Yes.
too fast, right?
Yes.
So I love that we've got that
Congruency.
congruency there. Yeah.
It's true. And we often rush the sale, and we want to vomit the offer because we just want it out there. And I think when you're in the sales process, and that's what we lead people to, we actually help you. We listen to calls, we do the calls preps with you, we actually make you get the yes. But a big part of the challenge is you have to ask this thing first. Do you want an offer? And if you make an offer, are you prepared to make a decision? Because if not, the money's not relevant. And everyone's like, but I just want to tell the number. I'm like, why? That's information gathering. That's not a buying decision. And if you want information about my pricing, my website's available. It's public knowledge. But when you're in the conversation of an offer, I am here to help you make a decision. I'm not here to judge which outcome you choose.
Is there some really high level, some specific steps or specific structures that must be incorporated into every offer?
Yeah, the biggest thing is you have to get really clear, and this is a sequencing problem for many. When we're making an offer, the first thing we want to talk about typically as a business owner is the how. We want to show you our brilliance, talk about our frameworks, talk about the how. And the how is important, but not nearly as important as we put it. And it's honestly not the most important thing you lead with. So I tell people to move a client from curious to paid client. The first thing you need to know, get really clear on what is going on. What do they want? What's the gap? What's the desire? What's the shortfall? What? Because that's the pattern you're spotting for. And your job is very simple. Spark curiosity of what's on the other side of the want, the have. And then they're going to say, well, I want that. And you're going, I know how to get it. They're like, do you? Yes. They don't need you then vomit, to the point which Wendy said. You don't need to vomit the whole PhD against an undergrad student. You say, I know a framework and my clients win predictably with it. How much information do you want to know about the how? I just want to know there is one. Okay, cool. I know there is a how. Then we talk about who do you need to be to get that? Who might help you? I must be inserting myself as the must hire here. Who has it? And how will that feel? And then we need to lead to the last piece of the question, which is, why do you want it? Why would you delay having what you want? And why should I be chosen? And we need to make sure that this is clear, because when we're working through the conversation, it's discovery, which is, what do you want? What's the gap? What would make it different for you? Can I share with you my recommendation? Are you open to that? Yes, I'm open to receiving it. What do you like about my recommendation? Then they respond to telling you exactly what they love about you. Pay attention. Then you're like, is having that worthwhile? How worthwhile? Is it worthwhile enough that if I gave you an offer, you'd make a decision? If you get the buy-in, you're saying, great, so this is my recommendation. This is what the investment is. What questions do you have? How would you like to pay for it? And you're walking them through a very systematic process that is very natural in its conversation, because your goal is to support somebody to an outcome. But the problem most business owners have is we lean into how and features instead of taking somebody through an understanding of, I see you. I am a guide to help you get the result. I'm not the result itself. I'm just the vehicle. And we have to shift our language around that. And when we do, money's never weird and decisions are never personal, and yet all the impact is front row.
That's amazing. I've never, to be completely honest with you, I have never heard anybody put it that way. I see you. It's completely true. And have I used other phrasing that was probably more complicated? Absolutely. But this
You can
comes,
take it, use it.
thank you. This comes back to, you have some elegantly simple foundations that are the key to sustainable success.
Yeah, and scalable success. And I think it's been such a disservice. The marketing spin of the last 8 years has sold you complexity, and you bought it, and you're exhausted. And when people say to me, I'm so overwhelmed, I don't know where to start, just tell me how. I said, okay, 2 things. You actually know how 9 times out of 10. So how is not the problem. And when you tell me you're overwhelmed, all I hear is, I'm not winning. Because when we build momentum, it's micro wins. That's that journey from like 1 to 30 steps that we take. It self-fulfills its prophecy. If we are winning, we have dopamine, and we're naturally going to go for the next win. I said, overwhelm is a choice of delayed decision-making. So how do I help you make better decisions and support your win? And if you win, you can choose your speed. You can choose how much you want to create financially, how many clients you want to serve. And that's ultimately what you set out to as an entrepreneur. You wanted the control. I said, that's how you get it. And they're all like, how will I win? I said, taking messy action. I'll hold your hand. You're going to manage the discomfort. Is it going to be things you will not do all the things you want? But I always challenge my clients, and I challenge my peers, and I challenge myself. Why is it worth it? Why are you here at the table? Tap in. Let's go. Nothing is easier by imagining the doom and gloom of not taking action. 9 times out of 10, whatever you imagine is never going to happen. And if it does, and you spot it and you wink at it and go, oh, hi, nice to see you, boogeyman. Let's keep moving.
There you are. Christine, amazing. I love this. Again, some language that although I've used other versions of it, just the simplicity of it, I learned a lot today. Thank you for that.
Love it.
Christine, can you tell us a little bit about your VIP offer?
So I want people to know that selling's not optional. It is the heartbeat of your business, and selling is something that people think they'll get good at eventually. I'd like you to get good at it today. And so I run an interactive workshop, and actually Dr. Charlotte's been in it. It's called Turn On Your Client Waterfall, and we want to take you through the sales piece of it. What can you do to build trust and human relationships that help you get to the yes faster, to help a client win more often, predictably? So we've got a whole collection of trainings. They're bite-sized in their nature, and they will all stack. I want you to hear and get surrounded by people who win in sales, who will show you how simple it is. Conversation is the fastest path to cash. Your next client is searching today. Go make the offer today, get visible today, introduce yourself today, and tell me when you're winning, because I will cheer you all the way to the finish line.
Amazing. Thank you so much for electing to be here, Christine. It's been wonderful
My
getting to
pleasure.
know you
Thanks
better.
for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Let's move on to, we're just keeping it rolling here. Just a treasure trove of information with all the speakers here today. So our next speaker, after committing to one too many responsibilities, Cheryl hit a brick wall. Then she discovered the importance of boundaries. And for those of you that didn't watch the chat, when we were talking about boundaries earlier, she was lighting up the chat. So she actually discovered that boundaries were even a thing. Now she is a writer, a speaker whose mission is to make the world a better place, one boundary at a time. Cheryl, welcome to the summit here today. So happy to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And I've been learning so much. And Christine, those were some hard words to hear, but thank you. So I had kind of prepared this as presentation style, but this seems to be a lot more conversational. So Carol, do you want to just kind of throw out some questions, and I'm happy to
Sure.
answer. Let's do it that way. So it fits the format better.
Sure. And that's fine. And it, yeah. So if you're able to pivot like that, let's do that. So we talked a bit about boundaries earlier in the conversation, and I think we all have experience with clients who don't have boundaries. So why do you believe boundaries are a strategic tool for CEOs and not just, what's become popular as a personal wellness tactic?
Yeah, so I think boundaries are essential for your clients, but I also think they're essential for your teams. And when we look at that CEO role, if we have anybody working with us, anybody, working under us, we are creating that culture. And we are setting the tone for the entire company and for our business. And when you don't set boundaries yourself, your team members don't think they should be either. And I always use the example, you've got that overworked, busy CEO that never turns off the phone, never steps away from the email. God forbid they ever take a vacation. They're, coming in despite being incredibly sick. They're still working. You're sharing that message with your employees. And now all of your employees are thinking, oh man, I have to do this. I have to be responding to the 2 a.m. email. I have to be sitting by my phone on the beach on my vacation, if I even get to take one. And it just sets up this really negative and unsustainable culture with clients. Yeah. That has been such a learning experience. And the funny thing is, I'm in a business mastery group, and I had I do some publishing as well. I had a publishing client that reached out the day before. We had just finished his project. It was done. It was out in the world. And he said, oh, hey, I'd like some time on your calendar for marketing advice. And I almost responded to him. And then I was like, no, you know what? Let me just sleep on this. The very next morning, we were talking about scope, and we were talking about being paid for your time and things like that. And she said, what I teach other people. But she said, you can't go beyond the scope. You can't go beyond what was in the contract and things like that, because they will take advantage. And I sat there and I was like, I needed this exactly right now. And, got away from that meeting, emailed him and said, more than happy. Marketing's a great next conversation. This is how much I charge for an hour of consulting. And he got right back and said, sure, add it to the next invoice. I would have let that go. Even as a boundary person, I would have let that go. So I think it's important for us to realize that our clients are going to take whatever we give them. And I think, Wendy, you were alluding to this. Like, if we, give them an inch, take a mile, something like that. if we keep adding on services, we keep doing for them, we keep giving them more and more and more, they're just going to take it. They're just going to say thank you. It's not many people that are going to, you know, say, oh, hey, I probably owe you more money for that. So,
yeah,
long answer.
Fair enough. You know, some of the common things that I see with my clients when it comes to boundaries, and it's kind of one of those little, and maybe you'll touch on it later, but I think it's really important, especially for anybody listening to the replays, is, you know, we can talk about our own personal boundaries. And as a leader, you know, you can look at that in your business of, yes, not giving that client any more, or, you know, really sticking to my calendar schedule, right? Those kinds of boundaries. But there's another boundaries, and again, you might end up talking about it. And so I have a lot of clients that are contractors, and you know, I had one of them say to me one day, "Well, I have to go to the job site this afternoon," and I'm like, "Why? You're the owner. You're not the foreman. You're not the project manager. Why?" "Well, I have to be the face of the company." And I said, huh. I said, that's interesting. I said, so as the face of the company, what do you get when you go to the job site? And he said, well, the client's always really happy to see me. And so are the team members. And I said, so the client starts talking to you and stops talking to the lead? The client or the labor level employees want to have a moment with the big guy, right? Stop doing their work to hopefully have you focus your attention on them. I said, when it comes to boundaries, your boundary needs to be don't go to the job site because you're a bloody interference.
Fair enough.
And he sat back and he looked at me, and I said, if you go there, it's an interruption. If you go there, it's going to take your teams an hour to get back in their stride.
May I add something to that? I've got
Yes,
15
yes.
years of GC
Hmm.
review. I think it's an ego thing, honestly.
It is. It absolutely is.
Y'all better get that project beautiful, blah, or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Just an observation.
Yeah, I totally agree. I owned a concrete company for 25 years, just so you know. I totally get it. So, you know, there's obvious boundaries, but then there's some of those more, I'll call them insidious boundaries. So, Cheryl, my next question, sorry, I interrupted you here. My next question for you are, what are some of the biggest boundary mistakes you see leaders making that quietly drain their time, their energy, or their focus?
Yeah, so the one of the biggest, and this has just become a pet peeve of mine, you know, as leaders, we want to be present, we want to be supportive, we want to be there for our people. And I don't know who came up with this concept of the open door policy, but we have this in our head as, you know, the pinnacle of I'm there for my people, you can come talk to me at any time. And yes, you want your people to be able to come talk to you. You want them to feel comfortable and safe voicing their concerns, their ideas, their, you know, any questions they have. Absolutely. But not every 20 seconds. And I think we run into that danger of, you know, you're working, you're focused, you're leading the company, you're looking at what's next, and knock, 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 you know, I just have a quick question, or knock, 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 can I pick your brain? And every time that happens, you're pulled out of what you're doing. So honestly, when I work with leaders, I suggest that they adopt an open calendar policy. And that open calendar policy is twofold. One, yeah, you can have office hours. You can have an hour a day or a few hours a week where you are literally sitting in your office or you're walking around and you are just there to answer questions. You are just there to be there for your people, and, you know, whatever comes up, you're dealing with. Or yes, you want to hear, you want the ideas, you want the problems. However, make an appointment. put it on the calendar so that you're not interrupted during that all important focus time. I think the research, and I'm sure everyone on this call knows this, is I think takes 30 minutes to get back to what you were doing before you were distracted. So imagine just an entire day of knock, knock, knock. I think that's one of the biggest challenges that people have, is not protecting their own time and not protecting their own focus. One of the other things I would say, and you kind of talked about this walking onto the job site, is what are the responsibilities? What is everybody's roles, responsibilities? What are you expecting from them? And who's next in charge? And when I say that, this goes back to that you should be able to take a night off. You should be able to take a vacation. And emergencies are always going to pop up. Okay. Yes. How do I put this nicely? At some point, the building could literally be on fire. And if that happens, they should call you. But
they should call the fire department.
Well, yes, after the fire department. But unless the building is actually on fire, there should be other people that can handle that are empowered to make those decisions, to make those calls. And like you were saying with the foreman, like the person in charge on that job site, you walk in, shoulders back, like I am the face of the company, and everybody else is like, all right, I guess I'll just go, have a drink or have a smoke. Because you're kind of pushing your weight around, and now you're disempowering. Is that a word? I'm gonna go with it. You're disempowering your team members, and you're saying, you're not doing enough. I'm here. So I would say that's
how do some of those boundaries, as we're developing them as leaders, how do some of those boundaries positively impact other areas of your life?
Yeah, so boundaries are connected. And look, I was on a podcast earlier today, and I said, if you're having a challenge at work setting boundaries, there's a pretty good chance that's happening in your personal life as well. And once you start to fix one, and once you start to learn how to set boundaries and you start building that muscle, it's going to play out in other spaces in your world. I think, honestly, aside from your own well-being, aside from your own, mental health, your time, your energy, your focus, I think the biggest is going to be your relationships. We don't realize how impactful unhealthy boundaries are on our relationships. We promise things that we can't do, that we can't, actually deliver on. We promise to do a favor. We promise to help somebody move. We promise to pick up kids from school, whatever it is. We make these promises that we don't have the ability to actually carry through in a proper manner. So we're letting people down all over the place. And if we do somehow manage to pull this off, we're resentful. And that was the biggest cue for me when I was experiencing burnout, and when I was starting this whole boundary journey, was anytime someone asked me anything, a friend, a colleague, my parents, it felt like this huge demand on my time, and I was resentful as all hell. And that's not a good way to have a relationship. So, when we learn to set those healthy boundaries at work, it's going to filter into our personal lives, and it's actually going to improve our relationships. It's going to strengthen them. And those people, like that foreman on the job site, they're going to feel empowered. They're going to feel like you trust them. Whether you're, delegating something at home to family members, they're going to feel like, hey, I'm actually capable of doing this. So boundaries aren't a punishment. They're actually a gift that you're giving people.
I agree. I absolutely agree. So can you walk us through high level, what does your framework look like for making high quality decisions and being able to take your first steps into A, recognizing where boundaries need to happen, and then actually placing them.
Yeah, so I created the peck method, and I go back to that boundary gym a lot. So I think about it like, you're working out your pecs, and that stands for pause, evaluate, and communicate. And when we are, people pleasers, when we've always tried to make everyone around us happy, we have a problem that I call yes vomiting. And I normally apologize for this, but Christine started off the vomiting conversation, so I'm just going to add to it. So, when we're yes vomiting, that is when somebody is asking us to do something. They're giving us a project. They're telling us they need help with something. They're, inviting us to something. And our immediate response, our initial, there's no thought happening. There's no filter whatsoever. It's yes, I can do that. Yeah, absolutely. What else do you need? I can wash your car too. We just throw this out there, and we're preconditioned that way, especially women. We've been raised that we're supposed to be the caretakers. We're supposed to be there for everybody else. We're supposed to make everyone around us happy. And we have to step out of that in order to make an intentional decision. So first step is stop the yes vomiting. And that can look like taking a deep breath, taking a drink, taking a bite of whatever you're eating. I don't care if you have to clamp your hand over your mouth. Whatever you have to do to not respond in that exact moment. And that's going to give you time to get out of that emotional brain and into your more logical brain and actually work through, okay, is this a good idea? Sometimes you're going to know the answer pretty quickly, and sometimes you're going to need to buy yourself some time, and that's okay too. Homework doesn't matter. Sometimes the answer is, wow, that sounds like a really good opportunity, and I have to check with my partner, my executive director, my dog, whoever. I will get back to you by tomorrow at 5, whatever that is. And that's one, telling them they're not getting an answer then, but 2, giving them the respect that they are going to get an answer, and they'll know by when they can either say yay or they can move on and find somebody else.
Yeah, and it gives you the space.
Mhm.
Gives you the space to actually take the breath, right? Scale out big picture and check in. Is this something I'm really willing and capable of doing?
Yeah, so
Awesome.
that's, the next is the evaluate portion, and it is, do I want to or have to? If the answer is not yes to one of those, move on. And sometimes is it going to get me closer to my goals, to my organization's goals? The next one is going to be, do I have the resources to carry it out? And what do we, whether it's time or money or energy or just mental or emotional bandwidth, everything we do takes resources. And if you don't have the resources to carry out whatever you're thinking about carrying out, it's irresponsible for you to say yes. So want to, have to, do you have the resources available? And then that third question is, are you willing to give something else up? And I think that's what a lot of people forget to look at is again, most of our resources are finite, right? We haven't figured out how to create more time in the day. Yes, you can always say I can make more money, and that's a wonderful mindset, but most people are working within a budget. Emotional and mental bandwidth. Yes, exactly. Yeah, when you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to multiple others. Yeah, because you're diverting those resources. So honestly, I mean, I call it the Clash question because I'm a huge music buff. And it's, should I yay or should I no? So thank you. Sometimes I say that in front of audiences and they're all staring at me and I'm like, no one likes punk. Awesome.
Yeah.
But really, if the answer to all 3 of those is not yes, you have no business saying yes.
I love that mirror. So that mirror, and we talked about mirrors earlier today, but that mirror of, and I forget the exact words you said, but I think you said, "Is this my responsibility?" And I think the pause is such an important piece to be able to bring that mirror up to you and go, do I have the time? Do I have the energy? Do I have the resources? Is it my responsibility? And there was something else you said there, and I'm terribly sorry because I lost the words. But I think anybody listening, they could really resonate with that pause moment and bringing it internal and saying, how does this feel? Right? So how do you coach people? They've been made an offer, you know, do you want to come golfing on Saturday? They said, pause. I'll let you know. Have to check with my wife, whatever.
Yes.
And they check in with themselves and they go, I really don't want to. I don't want to. What is your advice on helping those people who are yesers, pleasers, all that, really actually authentically step into how do you say no?
So it's funny because that exact situation happened this past weekend with my husband. He was invited to go out golfing, and he used to golf. What did he say? Like 48 weekends out of the year or something like that. Granted, he was in an unhappy, relationship, so he was trying to get away. But somebody invited him out golfing, and I literally were standing in the bathroom, and I was like, okay. I was like, well, you don't have to. I said, do you want to? And he's like, and he just sat there for a few minutes. I'm like, I don't think we have to go through the other questions. If you don't want to, why are you considering it? But of course, it always comes back to guilt. It always comes back to, I want to make other people happy. I want to, I have a background in psychology and anthropology. So I always look from the individual and the tribe. And when we go to that guilt, we come to, and I think Wendy said something about, is it coming from love or fear? I think that was you that said that. So often we're coming from a place of fear, and that fear is, if I upset the group, they will cast me out. And if they cast me out, there's nobody to watch my back. And now a saber-toothed tiger could eat me. And it sounds so silly, in our saber-toothed tiger-free reality, but that's still the brain that we're working with. It's a hop, skip, and a jump from I'm going to say no to, oh crap, I'm dinner. So when first we have to deal with that. First we have to say, I am not in danger of being eaten. And we all get a good laugh over that. I do it to myself too. But once we get past that, look, there's 3 different ways that you can respond. There's yes, which is pretty self-explanatory. There's no. And if there's any hill I will die on, it's going to be that no is not a complete sentence, people. Grammatically, yes, absolutely. However, if you want to keep a job, keep a client, or keep a relationship, for the love of all that is furry, give some context. Give something. You don't have to give a long explanation. You don't need to stand up on a podium and tell them your life story and why this just isn't good for you. But something as simple as, I'm so sorry, I have a really busy week and I can't help you with that. Takes the sting out of no. And makes it like you're human and you care, and you're actually, that it's important to them and you'd love to help even if you wouldn't. But it takes the sting out. And I was at a restaurant a few months ago, and I don't eat bacon. I'll let you guys take your time to process that. I know, Charlotte. I know. But I was like, hey, would it just be possible to get a 3rd egg instead of the breakfast meat with it? No. Cool. Look, I wasn't going to have a continuing relationship with her. It's not a big deal. I'll never go back to that restaurant, but there were other factors. But it just takes the sting out. So please, unless a creepy man is hitting on you in a bar, no is not a complete sentence. Okay, I'm going to jump off that soapbox and I'm going to give you the third response is going to be yes and. And I like to call that the improv answer. If you've ever done improv, you know that's how you keep a scene going. And that improv answer is adding your own conditions. Yes, I would love to help you with that project. And I'm not going to be available until next Monday. What that does is it throws the responsibility, it throws the ball back into the other person's court. You've given them an answer. And they can either say, you know what, next Monday is perfect for me. Thanks so much for your help. Or I really need somebody this week. I'll go find someone else. So our brains don't like hearing no. And if you do want to help in some way, you do want to support them, add your own conditions. There's nothing that says you have to do what other people want you to do exactly as they want you to do it.
I love that you use the and instead of the but.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So again, just for our listeners, when you use but, it cancels out everything that you said prior to the but. So, but when we replace but with and, it's exactly as you say, it's like, I'm agreeable, and this is the way I need it to work out for me to be able to do that. So just I encourage everybody, as much as you can, replace your buts with ands. Love that. And what about however? Darren has a question in the chat there. What about however?
It's a good question. I've always seen however as a synonym to but.
I agree.
So yeah, I would watch your howevers.
I would watch the howevers too.
Yeah, I guess the question would be, what is it about and that you don't like, and maybe addressing that before you choose your verbiage.
Oh, that's beautiful. Love that. So, last question, and then I'll get you to talk about your VIP offer. What would you say to a CEO who feels guilty or uncomfortable saying no, especially to their team or to a board?
Yeah. It's all about sustainability. You can go Mach 5 with your hair on fire for a short period of time. And we can all do it. We've all pushed ourselves. But it is indeed a short period of time. So if you want to be there in the long run to serve your clients, to lead your team, to serve whatever population or whatever mission you have to say no sometimes. You have to say no to excess projects. You have to say no to, I call them shiny squirrels. You have to say no to things that are going to take you off track or take your, take you away from your goal and take you away from your showing up as the best possible you. So I would say it's really a mindset shift, and guilt is there, and we can all feel it, but it's that mindset shift of, I want to serve the people around me in the best way possible. And I can't do that if I don't say no. I can't do that if I don't set healthy boundaries.
Great. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Cheryl. I learned a few things about boundaries today. Tell us a little bit about your offer, please.
Yeah, so I have been previously working, in the workplace space, and I really want to work with the individuals and work with people. And it's great to learn boundaries, but it's something you need to practice, and you need to keep practicing, which is why I keep referring to it as a gym, because you're lifting muscles, you're getting stronger, you're getting better at this. So I created the Boundaried Life program. And it's going to be a community where, people can come. We'll have lessons and teaching opportunities. We'll have open kind of group coaching opportunities where people can go through, whatever they're dealing with in their lives. Have that support, have that community of boundary buddies around them where everybody is, lifting each other up. Because when we learn to set better boundaries, we actually help the people around us.
Amazing. Thank you. So I've put a link in the chat to the VIP offers, and a little bit about Cheryl's program. So feel free to head over to the chat. I just feel so absolutely fortunate to be spending my afternoon with some brilliant, brilliant people. So I feel a little guilty, but it's actually my turn to start to talk about, some of what I'm brilliant at, right? So I am a business strategist and founder of the Scalable CEO Academy, and I host the CEO Shift Show podcast, where I help overwhelmed service-based business owners reclaim their time and scale with systems. Personally, I have over 25 years experience running a top-rated construction company in Vancouver, and I know firsthand what it takes to transform from operator to the empowered CEO. I specialize in simplifying growth, building strong leadership habits, and turning chaos into clarity. My mission is simple. I'm here to help entrepreneurs build businesses that support their lives, not consume it. So and I came up with that sense of clarity based on that one client that I brought here as the example. He wanted a business that supported what he wanted personally in his life. And I thought, to some degree, I think everybody I've ever spoken to wants that too. So I've made that a pillar and a core message in how I show up. So let's just set the stage. Today we're talking about time freedom and how it's actually not a myth. And as we're learning today with some of our friends on the conversation, it's not a myth, it's actually a system. So many entrepreneurs, their calendar gets packed from edge to edge. Their team, well, they rely on the CEO for every decision. And when you finally carve out a little quiet time in the afternoon, your brain won't stop spinning. And we've talked about this today about creating that space for us to settle in. Cheryl, you talked about it, about, creating the closed door policy, right? So imagine that you're sitting down with a coffee, maybe even opening a notebook to map out your next strategic move, but bam, right? You get a Slack question, the staff message, or the staff question, a client email marked urgent, or a team member, they just need some input. We've talked about all that today. And just like that, you're thinking time, and it now becomes reaction time. So this is your moment to slow down, and it's the moment for the business to speed up. Wendy, I think you used that term earlier today, slowing down to speed up. It's a term that I use all the time. And I'm wondering if you're watching this on live or on a replay, can you just drop a thumbs up in the chat if your calendar has ever felt like an absolute runaway train, right? So here's the real trap most service-based CEOs fall into. The myth is that time freedom comes after you grow or you scale. But the truth of the matter is that scaling without being able to leverage your time, it just creates a bigger and messier trip. And here's the kicker. Time freedom isn't something that you magically arrive at. It's not hiding behind revenue milestones, and it doesn't live on the other side of a bigger team. I've worked with CEOs who hit $5 million in revenue, and they're more exhausted than they were at $2 million in revenue. Why? because they scaled without protecting their most valuable resource, which is their time. They built the team, they've launched the offers, they've onboarded more clients, but their calendar, it stays chaotic, unprotected, and reactive. And I know that this is true. I know this to be true because we've all talked about this at different levels and different layers here today. So, what if there is a different way? What if time freedom isn't something you hustle toward, but it's something you design into your business model starting right now? And Christine, you started some of the very first words out of your mouth was the clients I work with, the first thing they do when they walk into their office is they check their finances, they check their numbers. So, even in doing that, that will allow more time freedom later in the day. And we're not spinning, worrying about where our cash flow is. We're not spinning, worrying if that accounts receivable came in yesterday. We're not spinning, worrying about whether we can match payroll at the end of the month, right? So this isn't about productivity hacks or adding a whole bunch of new apps. It's about building a rhythm that supports the identity that you're trying to create. You don't need more hustle. You need a system that helps you get back control. So I do have a story, and I've told you a little bit about why I'm passionate about this, but my own personal story. So I ran a specialty construction company. It was a decorative concrete business in the Vancouver market. We started that business. I was 7 months pregnant with my oldest son, who just turned 30 a couple of months ago. So, and let me tell you, it wasn't a 9 to 5. And I know what it's like to be the first one in, the last one out, and the one on every call when something goes sideways. How many of you, just by show of hands, I have a home office, have been at home, sitting at the desk at 12:30 at night, working and crying because you're so damn tired, and you know that you've got to get up at 5:30 or 6 o'clock the next morning and go do it all again? Who's been there? Wendy, I know you've been there. Yeah, I've been there. So I started out like many of the people that will be listening to these replays, passionate, driven, and ready to eagerly build something great. But somewhere along the line, I became the bottleneck. And it wasn't because I didn't care. And it was actually because I cared so much. I was doing everything, and my calendar proved it. And I thought that giving more of me was what was required. So what changed? What changed is I actually had a health scare. And with that health scare, it brought up that mirror, like we've all been talking about today. Like, what's really important? What really needs to happen here? I cannot deplete myself, coming back to the boundaries that Cheryl was talking about. I can no longer deplete myself in order to make this business successful, right? So I stopped building the business like I was the technician, because yes, I was on every job site, and I started to run it like a CEO. I created systems, I designed time boundaries, and I got clear on what only I could do in the business. And I let go of and I delegated the rest. And that shift, it didn't just make the business stronger, it made it sellable. Because when I exited in 2017, it wasn't chaos, it was a nice, clean exit. And I share this because I want you all to know that I've lived the overwork. I've lived the shift that I'm talking about. And now I currently have 30 plus one-to-one clients who I show how to do it faster and better than I ever could have known when I did it for myself. So let's bust one of the most dangerous myths I see holding CEOs back. I'll finally have time once we grow a little bit more. Sounds logical, right? You think once we hit that revenue milestone, I'll be able to just breathe. Once I hire that next person, or I hire that next contractor, or I hire that next bookkeeper, or I hire the next labor guy, it will free up my time. But the truth is, what was really happening is you're scaling into chaos. You scale the pressure, you scale the dependency on you. And that's really where I made my mistake, is I was the bottleneck. I didn't teach other people what they could be responsible for. So without a time system in place, every new dollar, every new team member just added more noise, more questions, more decisions, and really more touch points. So instead of finding more time, I found myself deeper in the weeds, and I'm sure many people can relate to that here too. If you went into business to create freedom, but now it just feels like a job that you can't quit. So instead of time freedom, you actually get time scarcity, just with more moving parts. And here's the truth that you have to hear. If your calendar isn't structured for leadership now, today, now, it never, ever will be. And it's not easy to start now. There is no later. There is no later place where chaos actually fixes itself. I want to give you a few examples of the mindset traps that I see over and over. And we've talked about these. I have to be available for the team all the time or things fall apart. I'm the bottleneck, but here's that but again, but no one else can do it the way I do it. Bullshit. And I'll slow down once we hit X dollars in revenue per month. So which of these feel most real for you right now? Drop the number 1, 2, or 3 in the chat. Number 1, I have to be available for my team. Number 2, I'm the bottleneck and no one else can do it. Or number 3, I'm going to slow down once I hit a certain dollar value. And here's the reality. Every single one of those beliefs will keep you stuck in operator mode, because businesses can't become scalable if you're still the system. So here's the exact system that I give my clients, the same ones inside my VIP bonus. It's called the CEO Time Leverage Blueprint, and it's built on 3 core shifts that will help you reclaim your week, install predictable leadership rhythms, and build a business that doesn't rely on your constant presence to survive. These aren't just time management tips, they're actually leadership upgrades, and they change the way you operate daily. So high level, let's walk through them. Audit the noise. Who knows what I mean when I say noise in your business? Noise. Dr. Charlotte knows. Cheryl knows. Wendy's nodding. Excellent. So this isn't about time tracking in 15-minute increments with a spreadsheet. It's about, we've talked about this a lot, spotting where your energy is leaking, not just your time. Noticing how many things that you touch twice before they're complete. Think about starting a task, getting pulled away, and coming back to it hours later. Identifying reoccurring tasks that should not land on your desk at all. And exposing invisible labor like decision-making, hand-holding, and context switching. This audit isn't a guilt exercise, it's actually a clarity exercise. How am I truly flowing my systems? How am I truly spending my time? And how am I going to be able to, and it's an opportunity for you to now recognize where the bottlenecks are, because sometimes we're so tight into our business that we haven't even lifted our head to breathe, and we just can't see that we're our own worst example. So step number 2, high level, is let's look at redesigning our rhythm. Yes, Charlotte. Dr. Charlotte.
Oh, it's fine. Charlotte's fine. So Carol, I'm going to go back to being in the contracting world.
Sure.
This is a prevalent, in my observation of my life, being in this world like you are, this is a prevalent culture opportunity for that industry.
Yes.
In their hearts of hearts, they believe that being there 10 to 12 hours a day is the best thing for everybody in the world, but it's not.
No.
So everything that you're saying, I'm like, because I have a program that speaks specifically to this. So I think that perhaps that for other industries, it's hard to understand that.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, I want to give you like a lot of, I heard you when you were saying I was the bottleneck. I can tell you, I probably know 50 superintendents who are the bottleneck. Because they can't, they have to, everything. I'm just like, I just see another underlying thing, shift happening while you're talking. I just wanted to, I'm not sure if anyone else is in the contracting business here or was.
Excellent. Yes. There's the underlying shift, and the way my contractors, based on my experience, the way I look at them is how do we slowly back them out of that, right? And calling them on their bull, when it comes up in the conversation. Because really, in my line of work anyways, people come to me because I call them on their stuff. They want the accountability. They want me to say, really? Is that the way you showed up? And from my experience, go, this is the way that that's perceived. Okay. So with contractors specifically, there's a certain amount of backing up they have to do, backing away from the project, making sure that they're closing their doors, their gaps, right? And I could see it be the same thing for a legal office. I could see it be the same thing for a bakery. I could see it be the same thing for a marketing agency. When the owner is in it, and they are the bottleneck, we have to pick the one thing, right? And we close the gap on the one thing, then we pick the next thing, we close the gap on the next thing, and they back out to such a place where they actually start to see the time freedom. But the next problem is, and sorry, I'm getting off subject here, but I think it's really important. The next problem is now they're looking at their crews or their teams. And again, I don't care whether you're a chiropractic office, a bakery, cleaning people, cleaning company. I don't care where it is. There's a point in time where the CEO goes, oh. And it's at that point in time where you have to take the CEO by the shoulders and you have to spin them around 180 degrees. And it's like, okay, we filled those gaps. Now, where are we going? And that's where the leadership comes in bits and bites and dribs and drabs up until that point. And it's when they reach that point, in my experience, that now we can turn around and we can take all those little leadership pieces and start to bring them all together into a sensible system that works. Does that help, Charlotte? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So the next step, let's get back to just talking about time and time freedom. So the next thing, and I think we're going to actually just talk about what I talked about here, is redesigning your rhythm. So this is where we start to shift from being available to being intentional. And that, Charlotte, is part of closing the gap. Am I being available to the person who, knocks on my door and says, "Do you just have a minute?" Or am I being intentional and removing myself to allow the crews, allow the teams to talk more amongst themselves, to start to problem solve more amongst themselves. And this one thing is called the 1-3-1 method. Got one problem, come to me with 3 solutions, and then tell me what the best solution is. Go. Right? You need my affirmation that that's the best solution? Cool. If it is the best solution, I'll say, bye, you got it. If it's not the best solution, then I now have the opportunity to say that's not the best solution. I think you need to do this. Okay. But that comes back to this whole idea of being available versus being intentional. Being available, you just answer the question. Being intentional is, how can I empower these people, my staff, to actually figure out this problem on their own? And that's how we back out of this space. Okay. So that when we take an unstructured and reactive schedule and we build it to reflect your role as a CEO, the one that's responsible for growth, vision, and strategic decision. So here's what we put in place. We put a weekly planning structure that creates built-in reflection and direction times. I love what Christine said. We build in specific time to look at your money, right? We look at strategic time blocking that prioritizes the CEO level work over admin or support tasks. And that's where the boundaries come in, where you close your door. And as a culture, you make it very clear to your team, when my door is closed, I am not to be disturbed. It's because many offices have that, right? Delegation triggers. Identifying patterns or signs that tell you this no longer, unless the building's on fire, yes, that this is no longer belongs to me. Like the answering of all the questions in the contracting world, if we've done all our pre-con meetings, we've done our Monday morning meeting, we're doing our daily huddles, those questions, if our leadership teams are doing their jobs, there should be very few questions. Very few questions, right? So what are we missing? So it's not only this no longer belongs to me, but what is missing in the system, right? And then again, the recurring CEO hours to really zoom out, to set the direction and course correct when needed. Now, in my world, a lot of my contractors, they actually shut down over Christmas. So the CEO takes 3 or 4 days between Christmas and New Year's to do this on an annualized basis. That's what I coach him to do. So step number 3, let's reclaim our driver's seat, right? This is actually the deepest shift. This is where the identity as a leader starts to meet your systems. You are no longer building your calendar around everybody else's needs. You're building it to reflect your leadership, your focus as the CEO, and your energy. So we start to install decision filters that help to eliminate mental fatigue. We default time boundaries that keep you in proactive mode. And we create confidence in our calendar, meaning that every block has a job and you decide what we put into it. And that sounds like there's no room for work. Going back to the CEO that like to show up on the job site, if that's truly what you want to do, one of your blocks is going to be visit a job site, right? But again, be intentional about how you're spending your time. And the tool that walks you through all that step by step is the VIP bonus. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. So let's just slow down for a second. If you have a notebook, grab it, and let's just take a breath and a pause. And I'd like you to reflect with me, because the next moment could be the most important moment of your time with me here today. So ask yourself this: what would actually shift in your business, in your energy, in your life, if you protected just 5 hours a week to think, to lead, and to plan, instead of constantly being available for putting out the fires? I know you might be thinking 5 hours, well, that's barely a day. But my question is what difference would that really make? Dr. Charlotte says sales. Yes. If you could save 5 hours a week to, you know, think and energize and strategize, yes, it could result in more sales. You could find a more efficient way to do sales. You could maybe cut 2 steps out of your sales process, right? There's lots of things that we could do. So let's use this time to get intentional and, you know, leverage it. You could finally build out that offer that lives in your head. Christine, I know you love to hear that. You could review your numbers monthly and make it proactive changes. Again, monthly, is that enough, right? You could map out your marketing for the next 90 days in advance, not 90 minutes before an email goes out. And an extra 5 hours would be the catalyst to allow you to be able to start to breathe, to be able to allow you the opportunity to have some fun in your business. So here's some of the things that I've seen happen for my clients when they reclaim those 5 hours. Their decision making actually gets sharper because they're no longer racing from task to task. Their leadership improves because they show up with the clarity, not the chaos. And their confidence actually returns because they're finally operating like the CEO their business needs. And I know somebody said earlier today, when we're in that CEO mode, it starts to get to be really fun. And that's where we want anybody listening to this call here today. We want you to be able to get to a place where you have fun in your business, where you enjoy what you do and you enjoy the people you do it with. So sometimes the biggest aha isn't a complicated strategy. It's realizing you've been starving your business of the one thing that it needs the most, and that's your focused leadership. So if that resonates, even if one of those aha hits home, I'd like you to type in the chat, "I'm claiming my time." And let's anchor that in together, because you deserve a business that gives you room to breathe, not one that eats all your capacity. And it all starts with one decision, and it's to protect your time like the asset that it truly is. So if you're nodding, thinking, yes, this is exactly what I need, then I want to make sure you don't leave this summit without grabbing the VIP upgrade. Christine, here's my offer. Because inside that VIP bundle is your CEO Time Leverage Blueprint. It's a plug and play tool along with the training and guidelines to use it. You're going to get the weekly calendar templates. You're going to get the delegation prompt lists. You're going to get a guided time audit and reflection questions that reveal where your current model is draining you. And you're going to get affirmations of developing what I call your power habit, where you learn to set the rules for your time first. And this is everything I wish I had when I was in your shoes. Building, managing, and scaling without a clear rhythm. If you can skim it in 20 minutes, or you can deep dive it to reshape your next quarter. Either way, it's yours when you upgrade. So here's what I want you all to remember today: that time freedom, it doesn't just help you show up, is that you create the time freedom. And the good news is that you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to keep reacting to the firefighting and wondering if you're ever going to gain back time to lead. As a coach, as a mentor, as a teacher, I've seen and experienced the struggle. Is my desire to empower every business owner to master calm, confident decision making, driving steady progress towards thriving businesses, which supports the personal goals you truly want. That's why I created this blueprint. That's why I created this summit, is to help you build business that supports your life. So if you're ready to stop being the bottleneck and start building your week with clarity and confidence, grab the all VIP access and get it started today. I'm sure everybody will join me when I say, let us help you. We can all do it together. Excellent. Amazing. So that concludes the speakers for our summit. And I am so grateful for Wendy, for Christine, for Cheryl, for Karis. I'm grateful for Lion. I just want to say thank you so much for attending here today.